First of all, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate all of you being here tonight. This is something we kind of conjured up back in April, and we picked a day and called all these guys and got them to we formed a meeting. You know, actually, what we're trying to do is we raise the crop, we want to take care of it, and we want to get our best dollar for it. And we want it to gin good, and want it to be good, and want it to be very profitable crop. And of course, when I planned this thing, I planned for it to be wet today, but I hope I just missed it by a few days and it'll be wet by the weekend. But I really appreciate y'all taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. I think when the day is over, you'll learn a lot of things that are happening in the industry that are very important to us as cotton producers and cotton ginners. First of all, I'm gonna start off by getting my stuff together here. Dr. Bill Norman. Dr. Bill Norman is an engineer. He's Vice President of Technical Service for the National Cotton Council, and Bill started off for us. Bill?
Jimmy asked me to come here, and I want to just kind of open this up a little bit today and kind of give a broad overview of the issues that we're facing as an industry that you may or may not realize here on your farm as you're worried about getting your crop in, getting it planted, getting it harvested. You may not realize what's going on with our crop overseas and going into our mill users here in the United States and overseas. So I want to talk about a few things because we've got to preserve the quality of this crop. It's our reputation as a U.S. cotton industry. When 10, 12, this year's going to be close to 17 million bales of our crop is going overseas. Places like China, Vietnam, Turkey, Bangladesh. And they're spending our cotton, and they're paying a premium, and they're expecting a high quality. And they're not always getting it. And when they don't get it, they're very disappointed. And it's not good to have a disappointed customer. So we've got to try to work it and get back to preserving the quality, making sure that the crop you grow, the time, the sweat equity, the money that you put into a crop is preserved so that the gin can gin it properly, and then our merchant industry can sell it for you and maintain our quality. You've got a significant investment, so let's preserve that investment. Let's make sure we build our modules correctly, get them formed correctly, whether it's a traditional module, a mini module, or a round module. And so we're going to have some folks on the agenda today that are going to talk about the details of that. But let's make sure we build it properly. We build it in the right locations in the field. I know last year was tough with the hurricane. And there's not a thing any of us in this room can do about that. But still, taking the time to properly manufacture, build that module, tarp it properly, we have a chance of preserving that quality. We've got to do that. We've got to use the right tarps. We've got to make sure that those tarps are in good condition. If you make that module and build it such that it will shed water, put a tarp over it so that it doesn't pond on top of that module, we got a chance to preserve that module at the right moisture content. We've got some fact sheets, and we're going to give you some recommendations we have available on when to harvest and how to handle cotton in very wet conditions. All of these items that I've got bulleted here on the screen are publications that we have on our National Cotton Council website. You can pull them off, they're PDFs, you can print them, read them, you can read them online, you can print them out and hand them out to folks. They're on our website. It's all good information, and many of the folks sitting here at the table helped create these, or their organizations were responsible for the research, whether it was Texas A&M, USDA, Agricultural Research Service, or other entities that help develop this information. It's still good, it's solid, and that's what we've got to do, is protect this crop from moisture damage and from contamination. Keeping it clean. One of the big things that we've really gotten into in the last 2 to 3 years, there has been an increase in plastic contamination of our crop. For many, many years, we've been known as one of the least contaminated growths in the world. We have the least foreign matter in our cotton. Ourselves, the Australians, and maybe the Brazilians are the 3 top cleanest cottons in terms of contamination. That's not the case anymore. We've had an uptick in contamination. It comes from several sources, and we're going to talk about some of that today. This contamination is a multi-million-dollar problem. I used to have a number up here where the question marks were, and I had to take it off because I don't know how much money it's cost us. When that contaminant, and you can see there the little black plastic string that came from some polypropylene twine, when that string gets in that shirt, it's about an $85 or $90 shirt. It doesn't take many of those shirts to rack up a heck of a bill in cost. And that's a contaminant that came from the field. It didn't come from the gin, it didn't come from the warehouse, it came from a cotton field. We've got to keep the plastic out of our cotton. This is a letter that we received last year, Dr. Adams and I got from the Japanese Spinners Association. And I'll refer you to the last line or two in that first paragraph. That their member mills are reporting traditional foreign matter, they call it old foreign matter, black plastic, string, fabric, increasing reports of yellow plastic contaminants. And they know where it came from round module wrap. That's the Japanese. Barnhart, the largest non-woven manufacturer in the United States. They manufacture all sorts of cosmetic non-woven products, hygienic products, diaper products, all kinds of non-wovens. And they talk about, we've identified contamination, looking at that last paragraph, whether they're yellow, pink, or any color, black plastic, as plastic mulch that comes out of the field after a melon or a vegetable crop, and threads of every description. We've got to keep our fields clean, our machinery clean, our gin yards and gins free of plastic contaminants. Ditch liners, polypipe, polytwine, mulches, plastic mulches, and then making sure we properly handle and locate round modules. In the fields, we pick them up properly, we move them to the gin, and handle them properly, and the ginners I've talked to tell me that if a round module gets to the gin and it has not been damaged, there's almost a 100% chance they will keep it from getting any contamination with the gin. But if there's a rip, a tear, or a broken module, we're going to have problems. If your module tarps over a traditional module or a mini module are frayed or worn, or if you cut off the wrap, the ties that you tie that down with, and don't get all of that pulled out of your cotton, that becomes a contaminant. It comes from many sources. This cost is high. I'm going to go through some slides quickly. This is some woven knit fabric from a mill here in the United States. Parkdale Mills is the largest spinner in the United States. This is what they were finding in their yarn. They were finding it in the fabric. They see that yarn, you see it's black, looks like black specks. This is what was in the slider before it was spun. I'm moving backwards through the process. And this is what was in the bale. This is product that came out of an entire laydown. A laydown is about anywhere from 40 to 60 bales. They'll run that in about 12 hours to go through a laydown. You see black plastic, you see red polytwine, you see yellow, you see some spindle twist. That's what we've got to keep out of our cotton. That's what we're talking about. Here's contamination in a laydown. You see, here's what folks are going through. When they have laydown, you've got 40 bales stacked together, and they've got an automated plucker that comes along and strips the cotton off the top of that laydown, and they find plastic of any kind. In this case, it happens to be the yellow plastic. bear with me here, but this is a slide. This is an actual mill in Bangladesh. And this is, you're going to see one bale out of 881 in the contract. All 881 from the United States had yellow plastic. You're going to see 9 people who are going through this cotton, and they are trying to sort it out. It takes about 1.5 hours for those 9 people to go through this one bale. If I can get to my... That's one bale scattered out through this room. We see some more bales stacked ready to go through. They're going through, and here's what they find as they go through it. This is what we're trying to avoid. Again, this has to be yellow plastic, but it could be red or orange polytwine. It could be anything. That's what we're trying to avoid. This is a summary. You're going to hear more details in a little bit from one of the other speakers, but this is a list of the plastic found by the classing offices across the country in 2017. Our classing offices up until 2017 had rarely, if ever, called an extraneous matter call for plastic. And you can see how many. There were a total as of May 17, 2,614 calls for either a 61 or a 62, which is extraneous matter. Now the discount for extraneous matter of 61 is 495 points. It's almost 5 cents a pound. If it's a 62, it's almost 8 cents a pound. So 2,614, and look at the Southwest, and look at the Corpus Classing Office, 432 calls. That's the highest, second highest number after Lubbock. We've got to get rid of this plastic, keep it from getting in the bales. Starting in the 18 crop, AMS plans to separate and start calling plastic separate from the other extraneous matter. So if you see a 71 or a 72 on your class recaps, that's plastic. And here's what they're going to do. Again, I said it's 455 point discount for 71. There'll be a 695 point for 72. Internationally, there are rules, trading rules, that dictate how a mill can go back on a merchant if they find foreign matter in the cotton. And the part I want to direct you to is the underlying portion. The buyer will be able to claim reasonable expenses from the seller for removal of the foreign matter. So a merchant would only be responsible for cleaning up a bale, whatever it costs to clean it up. But ICA, the International Cotton Association, has a new president, Mr. Solomon, and he's a spinner from Bangladesh. Bangladesh is the largest cotton importer in the world. They spend more cotton than anybody else in the world, more than China. He wants to change the rule and increase the amount of liability. Not just the liability of cleaning up the bale, but if that cotton moves on to yarn, a fabric, or a finished good, he wants all that liability and all that cost to come all the way back to the merchant. Now, whether he's going to get that accomplished or not, I don't know. But this is what our merchant friends are telling us may be happening. The merchants can handle and have handled covering these costs as long as it's just cleaning up a bale. That's usually not too expensive in these countries. But if it goes all the way to the potential cost of damage to finished goods, they can't handle that anymore. They're going to have to turn around and look at somebody else. Back up the chain. The gin, or the producer. Where did that bale come from? Because they're not going to be able to pay for it themselves. Another issue. This is a chart comparing U.S. inch and an eighth middling cotton to West Africa, inch and an eighth middling cotton. And you can see on the left hand of the chart, back in late 2015, there was almost a 12-cent differential. We had a 12-cent premium over West Africa. But look in 17 and 18, that premium has almost gone away. There's practically no spread. Now the merchant representative that presented this said, I'm not saying all of that loss is because of contamination. There are other factors. But he said, I guarantee you part of it is because we are starting to see as much contamination in our cotton as they do in West Africa. And West Africa is known as some of the worst in the world. They have to stop their gins every 12 hours, Jimmy, and pull plastic out of the gin saws. Every 12 hours, they stop for an hour, pull the plastic out. Here's us in Brazil. You can see we had 7, almost 13, 14 cent premium in 15. Again, that may not be because of contamination, but I'll guarantee you part of it is in because of contamination. Here's the 3 countries and the amount of contamination as collected by the International Textile Manufacturers, ITMF. They do a survey every few years. And we're the red line, Brazil is the yellow line, and so the lower we are, the better we are. You can see where West Africa is. But see how we've increased up in 13 and again 16, they do this once every 2 to 3 years. We've got to get back down to the 09 level or below. That's what we've got to do. With that, I'm going to stop and just say one other thing. We had a mill here in the United States that in the month of May, just the month of May, had over 100, 200 and, I forget the number, but it worked out to the equivalent of 240 bales of cotton that they had rejected as finished goods. It was the equivalent of 280 bales in 1 month. There were just over 300 calls for plastic in all of the Southeast. This mill's in the Southeast. This was all Southeast cotton. 280 bales rejected. They don't buy any extraneous matter bales. They refuse to purchase any bale with a 61 or 62. So these were bales that didn't get a call for plastic at the Classing Office. It was in there, nobody knew it. 280 bale equivalent, and they know every gin that every bale came from. You think they're not making a list? And the other thing is, they don't have to buy cotton. They can replace cotton with rayon. So we have to be careful about our reputation as an industry. So please, pay attention to our speakers today. Listen. Let's help each other preserve the quality so that you get the most out of your crop that you work so hard to produce, and our industry maintains its reputation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Norman. Things that you're hearing today are going to be redundant, but we don't like, we've just gathered some people in from a lot of different places, and I've heard talk before that relevant to the subjects that matter and building models and stuff, so we brought them all together in one group, just like I said before. And next speaker is Chris Delhome. Chris is Research Materials Engineer for the USDA Agricultural Research Service, Cotton Structure and Quality Research Unit. And Chris has going to make a presentation at the Cotton Generous meeting, and really hit home to me that we needed to get our folks together and try to handle some of these problems.
Well, thanks for having me. As Jimmy said, my name's Chris Delhome. I work in New Orleans with ag research, which I realize New Orleans is not exactly the hard cotton territory, but also used to work in Stoneville, the Gin Lab, by Harvard over there. My co-author in this presentation is Vicki Martin from Cotton Incorporated. She's got a board meeting today, so she's sitting in a bunch of fun meetings, but I did want to acknowledge her. A little bit about my background. You know, I said I work for Cotton Structure Quality, as Jimmy said. We do fiber quality research, and contamination is certainly part of fiber quality. You know, we tell you we want to preserve the length, preserve the strength, preserve the color, but it has to be clean. And as part of this is we do a lot of textile processing research. And so my actual work is a lot of supporting breeders and producers, and ginning research, but also just the domestic cotton industry as a whole. So I travel to a bunch of mills in the United States, mills overseas, overseas production areas, and see what's going on, and get a lot of complaints. The council gets a lot of complaints. People call me, and they call it Cotton Incorporated. So Vicki Martin is Vice President of Fiber Competition. I don't know where they came up with that name, but basically the idea is helping cotton compete against those man-made fibers that Bill talked about. And again, it's fiber quality research. It's how they determine what those bales to lay down in, those laydowns that Bill talked about, and overseeing product evaluation laboratory. The first part of the presentation she put together, and it's based on her work, visiting mills around the world. The second part is going to be based on my work from what we hear in the industry and see in the industry. A little bit's going to be some repeat from what Bill was talking about, but repetition can't hurt on this. So Cotton Inc. is all about U.S. cotton promotion. And when they travel the world, people say, hey, excellent fiber quality. Some of the best cotton in the world. We're paying a premium for it, but it's great. Contamination free. And HPI data on every bale. Unfortunately, it's been a couple of years since we hear it's contamination free. Like Bill said, we had that reputation, cleanest cotton in the world. People don't think that anymore. And reputation matters. This is about our reputation. This is about perception. Because if they perceive it to not be a good value, they're not going to pay for it. So you walk into a foreign mill or a U.S. mill, and they always have a bag that looks like this. And it's always so much fun when they pull that out. They open it up, like Bill says, every color of the rainbow. Yeah, there's yellow plastic in there, there's strings, there's twine, there's paper, there's feathers, there's spindle twist, you name it, it's in there. Bill's in Indonesia, big buyer of U.S. cotton, they have a bag. Bill's in Vietnam, really big buyers, love U.S. cotton, they have a bag. And as you can see here in this picture, most of these bags are accompanied with a bale tag. These guys love the fact that we put the PBI in every bale. It makes their job easier for quality control of that laydown. Unfortunately, it makes it really easy to start to name guilty parties. And as Bill said, they build lists. Every mill has lists. They tell their buyers, we will not buy cotton from these guys. Period. I had a gym one time ask me, how do you make on the list? You don't. How do you get off the list? You don't. You know, I've asked many a mill, why don't you buy from these guys? It's been 15 years. We haven't had that same problem since, so why change? A lot of it's yellow, now, we see a lot of yellow. Yes, the majority of the yellow is mono wrap. Not all the yellow is mono wrap. But we see everything else, so it's Guatemala, again, bale tag. You know the gin code, you know the bale numbers. You see there, that's not mono wrap, that's shopping bags, it's twine, it's black mulch, lots of this sort of stuff. Thailand, same thing, black, yellow, pink, white. Company with a list. Again, Bill said, they are manually cleaning this cotton up. It's estimated that it's costing between 6 and 7 cents a pound to clean up U.S. cotton. That's part of that price differential that's gone away. You're buying a premium product, they want premium performance. They're not going to tolerate this. And it's not just the foreign mills, it's the U.S. mills. Whether it's Parkdale, whether it's Frontier, whether it's Saugus, whether it's Gildan, every mill has had problems. Every mill is tracing it. They have to. Bill talked about Barnhart. Barnhart's huge non-woven manufacturer. Lots of cosmetic products, hygiene products. They're not allowed to have foreign matter. Period. Bill said, what they said point blank is, if we keep having contamination, we have to move away from cotton. We'll go to rayon. We'll go to a regenerated, man-made cellulose made from wood pulp because it's clean. It's often cheaper, and it's even more predictable to run because it's made in a factory. They don't want to do it, but if they have to, they're not allowed to have anything. I mean, this is hygiene, it's medical, it's got to be perfect. Like Bill said, these are what these mills are doing. They're not paying these people very much, but it adds up. When you're running a couple hundred bales a day, it's taking hours and hours and hours for a crew of people to clean each bale manually. That cost adds up. Someone has to pay that cost. So right now they're estimating 6, 7, 8 cents a pound. They're factoring into the price they're willing to pay for U.S. cotton, because they're expecting to now have to do this, which they haven't had to do to U.S. cotton before. But mills have lots of technology. It's good and bad. They have these fancy machines here, mills can install, it will find most of the plastic. It costs over $1 million to outfit a mill with this equipment. Some mills have it, some mills don't. And what mills are saying is, why do we have to do this? We don't have to have this equipment if we run polyester, if we run nylon, if we run rayon. We only have to have it when we're running cotton. And even the mills that have this equipment, it's not perfect. Gildan, who is number 2 U.S. spinner, has this in every one of their plants. They said they catch most, but they know they don't catch everything because they still get those claims. Like Bill said, people come back, they turn in a tractor trailer of shirts, a tractor trailer of pants, because they found plastic in some of it. They can't sell it at the price they wanted, someone's got to pay. Bill touched on the ITMF, International Textile Manufacturers Federation. They do these surveys. And it's every couple of years. And we asked, Bill said, how much does this cost? And we don't know. We don't have good numbers. But back in 2001 is a long time ago. It's kind of scary how long ago it is. This is before round modules. Really before we were hearing a ton about the mulch, although mulch was a thing. We had a lot of twine issues from conventional tarps and things like that. The estimate was that contamination claims were between 1.4 and 3.2% of sales of all 100% cotton blend yarns. So if you just take that number, a very low number, Bill said we have no idea what it is now. This is 17 years ago. That's over $100 million that's cost the industry. Conservatively, over $100 million. That's a lot of money in which way you shake it. That survey back in 2011 said U.S. cotton, least contaminated in the world. Excellent. Well done. In 2013, just 2 years later, you're amongst the least. In 2016, last year they did this survey, you're not the best anymore. Bill showed. The blue line there, that's contamination perception around the world. It's escalated around the world. We're not the only folks with ground modules, we're not the only folks with contamination issues. That multicolor line, that's what Bill showed. You want to be on the bottom, you can see the U.S. is that yellow line. We are not the bottom anymore. We want to be considered the best. We're not. And it's not just plastic. I don't want to sit here and just bash on Deere for the round module. I don't want to just bash on plastic, because the complaints we hear are all sorts of things. Fabrics and strings, plastic films, cotton. I've seen shop towels made into garments. Bright red shop towels, when they shred, make a white t-shirt out of it, they can't sell it for the same price. Oils, tar, grease, things like that. Leaves and feather, I said paper, we see quite a large amount of paper. Even sand, rust, metal. Had a mill in Vietnam last year, brought out a dog from a press. Sat on the table and said, what is this? It was in the middle of a bale. Didn't get in their equipment, it was too damn big to get in their equipment. But they knew which gin it came from. And we called the gin and said, you want to take a look at your press? Oops. So this survey, it's survey data. And, surveys are, well, hey, you see politics surveys. They're not very accurate necessarily, but they're about perception. And that's what this is that ITMF does. They call users, they send out flyers to users of cotton. And it's not just U.S. users and not just U.S. cotton. It's users around the world, and they have this page here, this is Africa. They have a different page for every possible growth of cotton. They say, who do you buy cotton from? And how do you feel about different contaminants? It talks about fabrics and strings made of different materials, organic matter. And it's just, do you think it's insignificant? It's moderate?
Well, it's exactly. Wait a few minutes. A little bit about me, I'm at Texas A&M now, but I worked at the gym lab in Stoneville, Mississippi for about 9 years before, so I've kind of worked in different aspects of the cotton industry, and I'm familiar with a lot of them from the field into the gym. A lot of this work I'm going to talk about was either done at A&M, in labs, or Risk Lab in New Orleans. So I'm not going to mention everybody that was involved, but covering some of this research, I want to go ahead and thank those people for building this. We see this nice, pretty cotton field here. Your work's done, right? Just go out and pick it, right? I think Bill kind of mentioned this earlier, that You know, the fiber quality is best today to low oils, and all we can do after that is make it worse. The maximum quality is affected by our variety, our environment, whether we have enough rain, whether we fertilize at the right times, and our management decisions. We can decrease our quality by weathering in the field. Sometimes we have bad weather and we can't harvest it. We don't have as much control over that. But poor storage practices and contamination due to improper handling can really affect the price you receive for that cotton. We want to do all we can to maximize that value. So I told Jimmy, I talked a little bit about some of the things that variety affects. He mentioned he wants to know what variety you're gin. You want to share that with him? It'll help him in the gin, and I'll show you kind of some of how this affects the gin. And we know it affects almost everything in the gin. And of course, there's the quality factors like length and strength that are primarily genetic. But in terms of how the cotton is processed in the gin, it very much changes with each variety. So this is some actual data we had from a study we did at the gin lab. I'm looking at 4 different varieties. Now everybody here, when you select your seed and you're looking at the catalogs, you know, what do the seed companies advertise it as, the leaf areas? What do we see? Lots of semi-smooth, right? Yeah, everything seems to be semi-smooth or light hairy. I'm not sure what that, exactly means, but it's pretty bad. So, but we see some differences. That Delta Pine, the Fibermax varieties they're advertised as the semi-smooth. And the Stoneville varieties at the bottom are more of the hairy leaf. And we see those differences. There's more trash in that as it comes to the gin, and before the gin stand, it's deteriorated. So we've got more trash there, but I want you to look at that one on the bottom. By the time we go through a lint cleaner in the gin, it's got the lowest leaf grade, it's got less leaf and stuff in it than even some of those smooth leaf varieties. Basically, it's a hairy leaf, but it's easier to clean. I'm sure Jimmy or any other gin, can tell you this. Sometimes that happens. The hairy leaf just really corresponds to how many hairs are on the leaf, and it is more likely to have more trash in it when it comes to the gin stand. It comes into the gin. And this is what we're talking about with leaf hairs. Not the greatest picture, but you can see some of those real fine leaf hairs. And magnified, they look like this. This isn't really that bad. These are kind of like the hair on your head. Some of them really look like Velcro, and that's hard to get out when cotton from those plants is in. It's hard to get that out of the cotton. Another thing we see that affects the price. Sometimes we'll see more extraneous matter calls of gin or seed coat fragments. And a lot of it is variety. We know there's varieties that have more fragile seed coats. There's even been some that seed companies have developed and had to just pull off the market because they cause problems. So it's something to be aware of. Sometimes that's a difference. Of course, cotton growers need a gin to process it. I know it's a co-op gin here, so after the gin's expenses and capital investment, the profits go back to the owners, to the grower members. So we have an interest in making our gin efficient. And one thing that affects this is a whole lot of varieties of gin to the gin, commercial gin a few years ago. And the 2 columns there, one is the kilowatt hours per bale. That's how much energy electricity uses in the gin. And the one on the far right there is the bales per hour. That's how fast the gin's run. Like any other business, like when you're harvesting your crop, you want to do the most acres per hour per day if you can. It's the same thing in the gin. They want to gin as many bales per hour as they can. That's kind of the bottom line of the gin. You want to run at your maximum capacity. And we see even among some of these varieties that gin a lot of bales, several thousand, some pretty large differences. You're looking at 4 or 5 bales per hour. That's a big difference in the expenses of the gin. When you slow down, your labor costs per bale go up, your energy costs per bale go up. So that's something to be mindful of. We select our varieties based on our yield and some of the fiber quality package. But it's really, so if one year, sometimes the gin runs slower. And if everyone plants one of those varieties that tends to be a slower gin variety, that's going to happen. Another thing to be aware of, seed size. The 2 columns there, and this is some work from the New Orleans lab, is the fiber to seed ratio. And then the x-axis, the one on the bottom there, goes all the way back to 1960. So So we see there that fiber to seed ratio is somewhere up around 1.7, 1.8. You know, and it's actually a seed to fiber ratio. You get some big seeds. When we get down to you know, varieties now, we're more like 1.4, and some of them are even lower than that. And there's a lot of differences between varieties, even you know, among what's out there commercially now. We see some that are as low as 1.1, 1.2. Another way to look at it is the seed index. That's just the weight of 100 seeds. And we see, you know, going from typically about 12 grams per 100 seeds down to closer to 10 now. So this is important in the gin. Some of those little seeds get through the gin and it can cause some problems with seed coat fragments. And of course also, you know, a lot of our gins are made just basically on the seed. So that's an issue as well in the industry. That's just some things to be aware of how some different variety things that you don't always think about will affect, you know, both the income you as a grower and how the gin runs. So next, I'm going to talk a little bit about proper seed cotton storage. What we see here is what we don't want. You know, this was after a storm, and the module's lost its cover. It's had a lot of wet cotton. You see the discoloration from just being wet, essentially decomposition. Now we're probably not going to do this. This was out of a Wall Street Journal article a number of years ago. Essentially, this is a Chinese farmer, and you can see where he's storing the seed cotton. I bet most of you aren't going to, you know, be able to store it in with them. So let's do a good job of protecting it. But we have good technology here for protecting it. We just have to follow the recommendations we have, whether we're using our conventional modules or putting them in the round modules. Before we store it in a module, we want to make sure we pick it at the appropriate moisture content. And this data is from out of the Missouri Boot Field, which is humid areas along the Mississippi River. Basically, we see here, you know, when we, on a day when there's no dew, you might get to this acceptable condition for picking. And this shows a lint moisture content of about 8%. And that's roughly a seed cotton moisture content of about 11. And that might be as early as 8 in the morning. Now, if we have a lot of dew, you know, that's this dotted line here, we're going to be wet until 10, maybe 11 o'clock. It's important that we wait until that cotton dries, wait until the dew dries, so we're not putting a lot of wet cotton in the module. And again, as night falls, you know, if we get the dew, then it's going to be earlier when we have to stop, versus, you know, if it's less humid, less moisture. Again, really, we're looking for that seed cotton moisture. That's about 11 to 12% maximum. That's that lint moisture content of 8%. You know, kind of the ways to check that, you bite the seed and it cracks. When you squeeze the fiber, you know, it should spring back. When it doesn't have a lot of moisture in it, it'll have a lot more resilience and spring back and squeeze up some of the fiber. Now, so you know, we think, you know, this is a problem with the gin, but you know, it impacts the grades too. So this shows that a gin with grade 41 or better. You know, they had some wet weather here. We see 10 different growers listed. And basically about half the bales of this gin were 41 or better in this sample here. But we see it, really 3 of these gins, we're up 78%, A, E, and I. Now, some of these gins have very few bales of 41 and better. And a lot of this is going to relate to how they store their modules. This is some research from A&M 10 years ago, looking at the module cover condition and the module shape. And the little abbreviations there, the GC is good cover, the PC is poor cover, and then good shape and poor shape. And this is generally the change. There was a rainfall event, pretty heavy rainfall event. I think much of this data is from this area, and it's compared before and after. So before, we didn't have any moisture damage, basically. Our cotton was in good condition. And after, we actually see it a little bit higher with the good cover and good shape. That's really not a significant difference. You know, we expect some variability within that range. Now, if you have a poor cover, but it still had a good shape. We lost nearly $400 in the value of that module. This is a conventional module with roughly 15 bales. If the cover was in good condition, but the module had a poor shape, would not shed water, had areas of cold water, the loss was about $200. So the cover is a little more important than the shape, but they both play a role. Now, if you have a poor cover and a poor shape, so you've got areas water collects, the water leaks through that tarp, and then it gets in the cotton, you're losing over $600 in that module. So that's looking at, 15 bales, $40 a bale. That's a pretty significant loss there. And it's not just, losses directly to the grower. This affects the gen's efficiency as well. There's turnout loss, which of course that goes to the grower. Some of that's from just loss in terms of, cotton that can't be salvaged, it's just rotten. But some of the turnout is just through the clumps of cotton getting turned out with the gin machinery. So we see it going down. The ginning rate also from that good shape, good cover, this is when the gin is running normally for over 40 bales an hour. Go down to that poor shape and poor cover, we're at half that. Most gins, that's, if you have to run at that half your normal speed, you can't stay in business. So it's not something that, it's very costly for the gin. And it's something we want to hold. When we're talking about a good shape, this is what we say is a good shape module. It looks like a loaf of bread. It's sloped towards both ends, and it's crowned in the middle, so water will drain off. It takes a little bit of skill for the operator of the module builder to be able to move cotton around and do it quickly to keep up with the harvest, but it's something that we don't want to neglect. We see a lot of modules where there's some high areas on the ends, and then you get lower spots, in this kind of this area, and that's kind of a negative thing. When it rains, water will collect. It's also pretty big. We of course have the Texas A&M. In the official module marking thing there, that's the state marking, the approved module marking thing. You don't want to use spray paint on there. Recommended material. Now, we've been talking about conventional modules a bit. A lot of that data was with the conventional modules. But of course, we've gone, 3/4 or so round in this area. Now, one thing we've seen from a lot of our data is that really these round modules probably do a better job protecting the value of that cotton. Some data we had from one gin, basically they use less fuel to dry, which is a good indication that they have lower moisture. Here it's reduced by about 50%. Not quite, but it's a pretty good reduction in fuel use. We're at about 0.3 gallons first stage drying here. Really total in about half a gallon. This is the propane here. Again, we see this pattern. With the conventional modules, you would see kind of wet ends. That's typical, or a spot maybe a little bit near the end. With the round modules, you can kind of count the bale numbers. This module here, slightly higher moisture content. These here, they're significantly higher. What's happened is that cotton was probably put into that module. It was picked too wet. It may have been picking right as it started to rain, and so we had we were just putting wetter cotton in that module. Another important point is with those round modules, we need to space them properly. That's 6 to 8 inches between each one. We've got a guy here, he's not a pretty skinny guy, so he can fit between them. But it's about, these might be a little more like a foot, but you need to leave at least 6 to 8 inches. In some cases, we've seen this. This was at a gym in the southeast, and they had a large crop and they ran out of room on the module. So they thought, well, we'll just stick them as close as we can. Then they got about somewhere between 6 to 10 inches of rain. And every module on that yard had wet ends, really affected the regenerate rate. the gym manager said, that they weren't ever going to do that again. They learned their lesson the hard way, basically. But this doesn't just apply in Virginia yard, it applies, when you're staging them in the fields. Because here it can rain a lot, and we want to make sure we let them separate. Basically what happens, if you don't leave that gap between them, water just collects between them, tends to run off the covers, and those ends will be wet. I'm sure the John Deere representatives will talk with you a little bit about this. With the new model cotton pickers, the CP690 or the CS690, starting in 2017, they include a moisture sensor. We did collect some data and compared this to our standard method for measuring moisture content in seed cotton, which is grinded in an oven. And basically we found no difference. We found it was an accurate sensor for that. Producer we worked with said, when he got the picker from the factory, or picked it up from the dealer, it wasn't calibrated initially, and so it was giving him numbers that didn't make sense. But once he worked with the dealer to get that solved, it was a useful tool. So we'd encourage you to use those numbers. It's telling you it's 13% moisture, and you don't need to be picking right. And we want to wait until it's below 12%. And we did measure this. This was over a range throughout the day, 11% down to about 80%. So, how we store modules, and this is an old drawing because it shows a 2-row or a 4-row picker, but the basics still apply for where we want to store our modules. It's basically saying store it on a high area, that's well drained, and it shows a 6-inch minimum ditch there. I don't have any good pictures of this, but notice that's not a cotton field with stalks in it. That's especially a problem with the round modules. Those stalks, they puncture the plastic, and once you get some holes in it, then you can really get some plastic in the jam. Now, monitoring the moisture and the temperature of the module is a way to tell if there's a problem. And typically this is done in the gin yard, but it's something we might be able to even expand the farm level, having to store, especially with the round some of the modules on the farm. You can probe it with a moisture meter. Again, we're looking for 12%. Now, we think really on rounds we want to be safe and go a little bit less than that. Moisture doesn't really move well through that denser package that's wrapped in plastic, or we'll get some drying of a conventional module, so we may keep it up. Temperature, it's a problem if it's starting to get up close above 100 to 110, or you're looking at about a 20-degree temperature rise. What that means is that there's some microbial action happening. It's starting with some decomposition. You're going to get some discoloration from lint, seeds going to start to rot. That's a sign that trouble's you're about to have some problems. So it's worth looking at cotton that might be expected, if you're harvesting, early in the morning, late at night, or after rain, it still might be that. Or after, especially with our conventional modules, if we have a lot of rain in, there might be ones that are susceptible to damage. Some work at A&M, this was actually here in Campo, looked at remote sensing of module temperatures. And this used the thermal infrared cameras. And I'm going to show you some of these images and you'll be like, what's that? They're not the best images. But part of the reason is I think now this is a lot more feasible. We can get thermal infrared cameras that use them in plants for sensing the fish ponds, electrical motors, or electrical gear for heating. And so they're a lot higher resolution, a lot lower cost than they used to. There's also the issue of, how do we see all these modules? Well, for most of y'all thinking UAVs, it's certainly something that we could apply to this that would make it a lot easier than somebody going out there with a camera taking pictures of all the modules. We could automate. But even in this, we can still see the hot spots in the hot modules on the gin yard. So basically here what we're seeing, this area here is the hot spot. And between the white and say the blue That's probably about a 20-degree temperature. We see here, you can probably make these out. That's a module there. There's some. In the background, that's a hot module with the white. Even on these, you see there's some areas on the ground, and this occurred after some significant rain. So that's why these module bottoms, they picked up some moisture off the ground, and they're heating a little bit. So again, why do we want to store our modules properly, manage moisture properly? Why is this important? Well, of course, there's a better color grades. You get that same cotton, you really take a hit on your color grades. Also, better leaf grades, and you can get better leaf grades by doing less drying and lint cleaning. This is simply related to the moisture content. It should be a staple. It should be a quarter leaf grade for 1% lint moisture. And they can do that in the gym without doing extra lint cleaning. So they preserve the fiber length, preserve the uniformity, which is important as we're competing with that guy in China that's storing the seed cotton in his living room. Faster ginning rates, less dryer fuel, those things that affect the gin's efficiency, and we can maintain seed quality. So now I'm going to move on to the plastic contamination part a little bit. Something else. What can we do as we're getting the cotton to the gin to preserve our quality? So historically, as our speakers have said, we've had low contamination in the U.S. They've been rising. One of the sources is this sheet plastic. Some of the common sources we see that are affecting it are the mulch. It's a bad idea to plant a vegetable crop on plastic mulch and then a cotton crop following it. The round module wrap, obviously. And we see in some areas some of this trash, such as grocery bags. In the last 10 years, have everyone noticed all the Dollar General stores that have sprouted up? I hate to blame one store, but where do they build a lot of them? They're out at a rural intersection, and I've seen several, where there's a cotton field, surrounding the Dollar General. So, there's going to get some of those bags in the field. Now, some studies we've done have shown that both the gin equipment, the cleaning equipment, and the textile mill cleaning equipment doesn't reliably remove this plastic. It gets in there, we make it smaller, but we don't get it out, or we don't get a lot of that. And I was just going to point out, I think Bill had some images earlier. We see here, this is in our bale, and that's just likely some mulch, black plastic. And this here, in fabric, we can see kind of a close-up. It's hard to see the fabric in the background, but basically the plastic's intertwined. So that material is going to be rejected. It's going to be costly. So where do we get our contamination? Well, some of the things we do, as we mentioned, we have irrigation pipe in a lot of areas. So they're using polypipe, the mulch. We hope to avoid that. Of course, module wrap. We're developing some techniques and hopefully some new systems for handling it that we can really eliminate a lot of this. We also have another source, and that's the trash, the shopping bags, plastic wrappers. And we know the Classing Office is finding the module wrap. We know that's a big issue. But the fact is, as Chris mentioned, these mills have detection systems, and they have people looking for it now. Even if we got rid of all the module wrap this season, they're going to find these other sources. So I think we need to continue to be proactive in addressing this and doing things to try and get rid of it. So first of all, keep your fields clean. These are some of the bits on the end of the roll that are left. That were just thrown in the field, and hopefully they come back and pick it up. But even if you look in the background, you'll see there's some more yellow plastic there that's just kind of loose. And if this gets incorporated under, then it's probably going to be there the next year. And if it's still there, the picker's going to suck some of it up. So one thing we looked at doing was, can we see this with a drone with the UAS? So this was one of the gym labs, and this is basically a road alongside the field. And it's not a very busy road, it's not a major highway, but it does get some traffic. So we certainly found some plastic bags that tend to, get intertwined around the stalk, as the wind blew it into the field. And we found, our resolution is kind of poor here, but we're going to fly lower and do some things to get better images next year. But though it's really hard to see on that product, but right there is that shopping bag or something. So, we think we can find them. And of course, they should really have a lot of it, if you're on a major highway or right next to the Dollar General store, a gas station, or, something else where you get a lot of trash. It's really costly to send somebody out there to pick it up. We'd like for you to do it, but, really as researchers, we're looking towards, maybe we have a little field robot. That's the kind of application you can use for it, where, it doesn't have to be real fast, real big, it doesn't put safety risks. So that's probably something we'll be looking towards in the future. Another thing we're looking at is module handling. One, we're moving these things multiple times, with the round modules. We had a reliable system with the conventional, put it on a truck, stage it, put it on the feet. But we've got a bit, and we've got a number of systems for it. Some gens are doing all the hauling, some farmers are hauling their own. We have, on a module truck, some on a flatbed hauling 6, some 8. So what's most efficient? Both from the farmer's perspective and the gens. How can we, as a whole industry, be efficient? So we're going to look into this coming season. Related to that is this issue of module acting. Where exactly is this occurring? Where's most of this happening? And what piece of equipment is causing most of it? We know it occurs, and we see some of this here. This end either got caught on a module truck or somebody moving it with a tractor, hit it, caught the edge, it's opened it up. And that piece of plastic there, it's still connected, but it's probably in the gym, it's going to end up in the gym. So really the question is, I showed that cotton field, it's nice pretty cotton, but we really want to get to the nice pretty bales of the gym. No plastic, no moisture problems. At this point, this you can sell, for a high value. So that's where we want to get to. So with that,
thank you. As Jimmy said, my name is David Hale, the product manager of John Deere cotton harvesting. Well, I've been in for about 7 years now. So it's a job I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed doing events like this, getting out and meeting, presenting, talking with growers and those in the cotton industry. It's really a fun thing to do. So what I've got today is mainly what I've got. I think on your tables there you have some booklets about these best practices, and that's pretty much what I'm going to cover. There's a couple of slides that I've added in, a couple I took out since I presented Jimmy talked about in Lubbock. But really what I'm going to get into is there we go. So here. So the first part, this preventing cotton contamination. So that's really going to go into machine settings that are discussed in what we have we call it the rapid inspection and maintenance guide that comes with every machine we sell. So I'll go through that. I just want to talk a little bit about, I'm going to kind of talk about this earlier today, just the round nodule tracking technology that we offer on pickers now, and the opportunity that has for both this quality concern and then just nodule logistics in general. And then also the moisture and noise sensing that was mentioned on our machine starting last harvest of 2017. So first topic, so like I said, everything I go through here is in the booklet. It's also in, like I said, the rapid inspection maintenance guide that come with the machines, but really what we're looking at here is all the settings that are possible on the machine to ensure that you do not have any wrap issues, so basically trouble for your wrapping in the machine. And so the main themes is going to be cleanliness we'll talk about, and then different gap settings in that round module system, building system, and then a little bit on speeds too with as you're forming these modules. But the first one here is showing the RV belt position. So what you're looking at here is the outermost belt. You want 3/4 inch or less gap between that and the outside wall of the baler. So that's in the upper right hand corner we're looking at there. Get too wide there, it can start causing some issues that I'll get into later. So you want to keep that 3/4 inch or under. And then another thing is these wrap belt guides. So as you look at the pictures that have the B and the C on it, it's those guides you've probably seen that go between the belts on the CP 690 or CS 690, I guess CP 690 for this area. And basically the setting that we recommend there is you look on that lower left-hand corner, is that in general from the factory, the recommended setting is the farthest to the left looking at it. This picture here, and there's little shims in there that you have that you can adjust where that is. But generally, farthest to the outside. Lacing. So another important thing here is to make sure that every day when you're cleaning the machine, you have it in belt service mode to get in there. When you take a look at the belts, at the lacing, make sure you don't have any bent lacing, that you don't have the pins that are worn down too much. Replace that pin. If you've got damaged ones, then either try to replace the lacing when possible. Worst case, replacing the belt itself, or at least splicing in a new section. So cleaning. So again, and generally recommend, there's a clean guide that comes with the machines. Generally, a whole machine cleaning will just fine. The machine runs better when it's clean. But one most critical that's relative to the wrap system would be cleaning the area around those wrap 4 belts. So those are those V belts that help guide the wrap in when you're forming a module, or when you're wrapping the module. You just want to make sure that as you're cleaning, you get down to that part that any cotton or anything that's wrapped around where those pulleys are, you want to make sure that's cleaned out of there, because as you can see on the right there, potentially can take that belt off that pulley off track, and you're going to cause issues potentially with the wrap system. And then wrap core adjustments. So this is mainly around the tension with those V belts against the forming belts of the round module builder. So what you want to do is make sure there's a good firm contact with those V belts to the round module builder belts. And you've got these cams at the front of each of those front belts that you can see on the upper left there. That if it's not contacting those belts well, you want to adjust it forward a hole. The only thing is you only want to go to the 3rd hole from the front. So what it's showing there is those first 2 holes, basically under that red circle. You do not want to adjust them beyond that 3rd one, because they're probably going to be actually up into the baler belts at that point, and will cause issues. And then also what's shown on the right there is just the tension of those wrap belts, as I get into the next one, making sure that there's not a lot of slack in those, that they've got good tension. And that's adjustment at the rear of the belt tracking. So that's what this is showing here. Just check the tension there. Obviously the bottom is showing too loose. You want good tension on those. Basically, what you want to do is you test and make sure that when you run those, that they contact the baler belts, that all of those belts are turning correctly. Plastic fingers. So this one's important. What can happen with these plastic fingers, the ones that got the plastic in, they're down at the front, basically when the baler is closed right behind that feeder belt. And what can happen was, especially like when you go into transport mode, those belts can, or when you're just ejecting a module, can roll back and actually catch those fingers and bend them backwards. We don't consider this normal operating, but it's not uncommon either, and it's just important, especially if you're going to store the machine at the end of the season, to check to make sure that all those are back forward. Generally, when you're harvesting and you go back into harvest mode, those belts start turning the right way. It should send them back in the right position, but you just want to make sure to check those on a daily basis when you're cleaning, and then also at the end of the season for sure. And if they're curled like the one on the right there, or if they're curled or broken too bad, you need to replace them. But generally, if they're curled back and you can't get them to go flat, you just take them out and recommend you just flip them over so that the curl is going down into the metal rod guide fingers. This is just showing, this is the rod guide pivot arm. Basically what it's saying here is you want to make sure on that, the circle by that E is all the way to the outside. There's a couple of casters there, and you just want to make sure it's riding on that outer bearing surface. And that's just making sure that pivots correctly, is engaging correctly when it grabs. Generally not a huge issue with this one thing that can be adjusted. Another important here related to those fingers. So these are the rod guide fingers. These are the ones that those plastic fingers basically rest on. What we've got is you want to have basically an 1/8 inch gap, an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch gap So when you're cleaning the machine each day, you want to check across those rod guide fingers and make sure all those gaps look right. If you look here, you got smiley face on the left is saying, oh, those are good. Gap, if you look at the one on the right, you can see, especially on that left-hand side, that there is one that's up into the baler belt, so that gap is below that 1/8 inch. What's going to happen there is it potentially can, when the wrap is feeding in, that finger can catch it, and it will either, wrap won't go in, it will cause a miswrap, or it can tear a section of that wrap and go on and form that module with just a piece of it missing. I'll have a picture of that later. But you just want to make sure that's 1/8 1/4, but you don't want it more than 1/4 inch also, because if you have it down too low, they can actually get into the feeder belt, potentially. So the belt that feeds the cotton in, so you don't want to have those fingers contacting that, or those rod guide fingers contacting the belt. Wrap leading edge. So this is just important when you're starting a new roll of wrap. There is that decal you've probably seen on a machine that's on down on the left, that white decal that has arrows on it. Basically what's saying is when you start feeding that first section, that first portion of wrapping, you just want to somewhere on that decal, and that's to ensure that the timing is all good for the wrap as each portion is going through, that it just starts at the right point. So this wrap troubleshooting, what this is going to show is there's some issues that you may see with foreign modules in the field, and this is just kind of a way to look, see what might potentially be going on. So a loose cover edge, there's a couple things here. One would be, potentially that when it's generally a wrap tension issue, so it may be either a speed issue that I'm showing here on the left, where you can read the speeds inside on the display, but it should be 233 RPM when it's forming, and then 100 when it's getting ready to, or when it's wrapping, and then 100 when it's getting ready to separate. So it slows down separation. If there's a lot of variation in those speeds, then that's something we want to get back and make sure that things are functioning right with either the speed sensor or the wrap clutch. And then another thing could be is you want to make sure when you're loading those new rolls, and when you've probably seen up on the upper left-hand corner of that baler is that decal with the circle on it, the arrows. You want to make sure that rod that's in that slot is lined up with that circle. That makes sure that guide roll is sitting down, the feed roll is sitting down on the lower feed rolls, and that will make sure that you have that wrap properly tensioned. What this is showing, so basically wrap rubber roller, this is not as much an issue now. We had 2016, we started putting on these grooved rollers with fingers on there, so basically if there was any issue where it was going to wrap that roller, those would prevent it from wrapping, it would just bunch up back there. But if this issue, before that model here, there's also a retrofit for that too, I should point out, potentially could wrap it. This generally won't cause contamination issues for this alone, but what I want to point out here is I know that when this happens, you've got to go back there and cut that wrap off. It's hot, especially during harvest. It's pretty frustrating. It's just to make sure that when it comes off there, that you don't just toss it in the field, that you properly dispose of it, just let it end up staying out there and either getting shredded or picked up by another picker or something like that. So just making sure that you clear those wrap portions after you cut them off of that roller, if that happens. So this one, I was talking about those rod guide fingers. This is where if it went ahead and kept wrapping that module, that it went past wherever that finger was getting into the wrap. It just may cause an issue here where they have like just one section of that module that is open, or that is basically cut as it looks like, and you can see it's about the width of one of those finger sections. If you see that, that's most likely what happened. Go back and check those fingers and make sure that they all have the right spacing between the belt and that finger. No cover edge. This goes back to, again, the first slide where I had that 3/4 inch gap. If you've got a wider gap than that, that's where you can get some cotton in there behind that lower rear roller. What that can do is just basically push that wrap out as it's trying to get over that cover edge, and it won't adequately cover the edge that it's supposed to, that it's designed to. Edge tear, this again goes back to the issues with the loose edge, that'd be around that gap between the outer wall, around the tensioning issues, potentially. So that's probably what's happening. That can happen when you've got that loose edge. You can get caught in that tear like this. We've got, we're calling it wrap torn dramatically. I'm not a great word for it, but basically what this is showing, may have cotton that was either hung up on those lower rod guide fingers or somewhere in that wrap system that basically got pulled through when it was wrapping a module, and will just cause issues like this where you've got either pieces of cotton or something somewhere in that wrap that will just cause weird issues, or, one on the right, potentially before, if you had trash buildup on the ramp behind that feeder belt, as the wrap goes past it, it can cause a tear in that wrap as it goes over that mound of trash. Those are just things to look out for. This one here, so this is showing, I don't know if this is grabbing anyone, but basically what can happen is that you've got, as the wrap comes around the module from the rear and it gets down to what we call a starter roller, which is that number 15 down there. If it doesn't make it past it, it can wrap around that roller, and that's where, we got cameras on the machines, and good spot for one is in that wrap slot. Because you can watch to see as you're forming that module, and it says that the wrapping process is done and it doesn't look like there's any cotton, or if there's any wrap on that module, probably what happened is that it wrapped around that starter roller. In that case, what you want to do is first of all, panic. You want to put it into basically manual wrap mode. You go out and wrap it with your tether, runs at a lower speed. You'll generally get the wrap past it, then you can get the module wrapped, get it off the machine, and then you just need to get back there. And similar to that wrap or roller, you're just going to have to clear the wrap off and then start the roller. Partially wrapped. So what can happen here is generally if the time was off again going back, either it wasn't wasn't started on that decal or in the proper spot with a new roll, or if the wrap speed sensor was off, if the gapping was wrong between the tone wheel and that sensor, any number of things. If it doesn't separate at the right time, what can happen is it will take the next section of the next portion of wrap with the previous wrap, and it will take about 5 meters of that wrap section as it orients the module, so that when it rolls off that ramp, so that the tag is in the right spot, it will pull off some more of that next wrap portion. And then what happens is when you open it and you eject it, it's basically like a roll of toilet paper. It goes down the ramp and it unravels and it takes off. That extra 5 meters of wrapping will pull off about that much of the previous portion of wrap, so it will just cause this tail here, and that again is going to have the potential to go into a module or get caught up in the pin. So just the last piece here on this topic will be, so looking at damage from handling. So a big part of this, and this is where we can touch on a little bit, is the handling of the modules after it comes off the machine. So there's settings you can do to make sure the machine is right, and generally those will work out in a lot of issues not coming off the machine. So, but the other place it can happen again is handling, especially in the field. So just a few things here. If you see these things on a module, probably what happens. So in this case, it's got if you have the spreadable force up you got, like our Frontier one, where you are squeezing the module, if you drop it and you pull away and turn, it's going to cause a slice in the side like that was shown here. This one here, you're going to see before, if you drop the module and you either raise the handle before you're away from it, or you turn before you're away from the module, you probably have some issue where you push an edge over, or you cause a tear somewhere in the wraps. So just making sure you drop the module completely away from it, raise the handle before you raise that handle before you make a turn. This one here, so this is important. If you're moving that module across the field, to make sure that it's raised up high enough that it's clear of the cotton stalks, because if you've got it too low and it drags across every single cotton stalk in the field, it's going to cause some edge tears like this, and just all those little pieces of plastic hanging. Again, that's introducing a big risk there of having some contamination. This was just on, this is mainly on the gin side, but not a big issue as much, I don't think anymore, but if they have the wrong chains on a truck, so a more aggressive chains for conventional modules, and picked up a round module, it can cause tears of the wrap there, it will look like this, basically. And then again, at the gin, so if they were unloading that truck and they kept running the chain after it reached the end of the truck, it can just cause a tear on the end of that module, it will just start splitting back like it should. Damage from on the sides, that's generally from the module truck. You can contact those sides as you're loading it, just causes pulls, different things like that along the side. So just making sure that the modules are lined up straight, that they're put on the truck square, that they're not touching the sides. So the final slide here on this, just the contamination piece, is just showing the resources we got. So again, I mentioned earlier this inspection and maintenance guide. So everything I'm showing here is actually in this guide. So this guide is available. Now you've got a lot of it in this booklets you've got here, but this actual guide comes with machines. And then on the right, we've got staging instructions. So that, even National Tie Council's got this out on their website, I think on the Keep It Clean website. We've had it on our Deere website, it's not there right now, because we updated the website and realized it was not brought in. I'm going to talk to our advertising folks about that, and then just ground module taking recommendations for handling those at the gym, where to cut, things like that. So these are just some resources we have out there. What I don't have shown here is we also have the Go Cotton app, so an app on your phone. That goes through a lot of the cleaning procedures and wrap load procedures, so, you know, especially if you're a new operator, go owner of a machine, you don't exactly know how it works, you don't have a lot of experience with it, it's good to just pull it up on your phone, and you got that app where you can just go through step by step a lot of these things that I've talked about here. So the last piece here I'm just going to touch on kind of briefly for awareness. It's kind of, we're trying to get more awareness out in the industry about this, but the round module tracking technology is our machine is Harvest Identification Cotton Pro. So before 2017 or before the CP690, it was just Harvest ID Cotton. Now it's Harvest ID Cotton Pro, which just has a few more features in it, but it's a complicated slide here. This is basically just showing what's possible with this. And we've got between the components on the machine, you know, with the controller and the RFID reader, we can log each module, and that can be potentially traced all the way through the value chain. We're showing as you walk down through things here. But what's documented is basically all these data points. It's up to 27 now with all the ones that we added on the right there. The big ones are moisture and weight. And so, as I talked about, I'm going to talk about here again, is the moisture and weight that we added in 2017. Those are logged in this system. So when you've got this list from Harvest ID, you'll have this full 5 list of modules in this file. And for every one of those, you've got moisture and weight on them. And that moisture, so it shows up on your display as your command center as you're harvesting. But if you don't have Harvest ID cotton, it will not actually log that moisture. So you basically just have real time, and you can see what your moisture is and what your weight is on that module. But it's not going to document it unless you have the system. Again, I think that's one where, you know, from a Jane perspective, you've got this list of modules and you know what moisture there is on them, so you know if you've got a high moisture modules that you can potentially, as you plan out your scanning, you know what moisture you have in those modules. And also we'll have weight in there too, obviously. But we've got where it was actually dropped before, it was just where it was formed, so you got drop locations of those modules. We've got, you know, all the field information, variety information, time it was made, time and date. So just a lot that can be captured when you're making modules. This is just I want to bring this up here. I've got another colleague here recorded this, basically a webinar on transferring files off the machine into my John Deere, into the operations system, which is the first step in getting them into the, you know, piece that's kind of been missing is the GIN integration. So legit software integration. And as that's come along now, just put more education out there on this side, get it off the machine first of all, and then still working on the pieces of how you get it into the GIN. So this is just showing, you know, movement of the cotton, the ground module. And this is the key piece of it here, is that at the GIN you potentially, you know, you have this RFID reader bridge, and then you have this HID file, and you have modules going into the GIN. Having a bridge there, Chris had mentioned being in Australia, almost all their GIN are running this type of technology that they developed on their own, where they're tracking every module. And I think these pictures actually are from Australia, I believe, but it's just a way where now you've got a way to check it. You have that list before you get the GIN. Now you're basically checking off these modules as they come across the code. Yes. Real quick here, I won't get too much of the details, but moisture and weight sensing. Basically, that moisture sensor is a contact sensor inside that, inside the baler that's using capacitance, basically the electrical connectivity to measure the moisture in there. And it's most accurate in like 9 to 12% range, so that kind of critical range for harvest. And then the other piece again is just the cotton round module weighing, where it's getting the weight for every module on the handle. Again, these are both things that can be recorded in that harvest ID file of this machine. All right, so I read through that kind of quick. There's a lot of information, but yeah, again, so again, just as you've got the books here, just remember some of those settings on the machines to make sure that you've got trouble-free ramming operation, and also just, you know, considering this, you've got the HID, just consider what the module tracking capabilities we've got.
Thank you, Jim. Like Jim said, I am the district manager for Campo USA, and we are basically located in Utica, Iowa. Our product is manufactured in actually Israel, and I cover everything from the Mississippi River all the way to the West Coast for cotton products. And please bear with me for a second, because I'm going to show a short video about the history of our company in Israel. And there's a method to my madness. Now, the first part of it you're going to see is going to be with round balers and net wrap and plastic products, etc. But hang on and just watch it and absorb a little bit of it, and then I'll explain to you why we're showing the video at this point in time. here to talk about cotton contamination. However, if you saw in that video, you saw a round baler for hay putting net wrap on a round bale of hay. So in the infant stages of the process, when we got together with John Deere and Campo was a company that made net wrap, they made plastic products, and the net wrap actually at that point in time was made for landscaping purposes in California for some very high-bred grasses for golf courses. And so it was somewhat of a natural fit for when John Deere decided to start coming with net wrap for a round bale of hay, that we found Tama and made a joint venture at that point in time with John Deere and Tama to make net wrap for hay. So, that being said, when the round module picker came into process down just a little bit southwest of here in Bath, Texas, and Odom, Texas, and down on the King Ranch down around Kingsville, where we were doing a lot of testing with the round module picker at that point in time, we were trying all kinds of different packaging products to get this round module picker to wrap the module. We tried actually some tarps that were round, and we put them on a roll of wrap, and we had Velcro strips on it, and we would use that, and it was pretty effective where you could actually use those tarps again. However, they also started just from the operation of the machine and the round module portion of the 7760 at that point, or what we called the Zephyr, it would start to fray, and you could get contamination issues in the cotton at that point in time. So what I'm really trying to say is that this contamination thing is not something that's new, and we've been working at it for almost 13 years, because we knew that this was going to be an issue as we went on, because it was going to get to be a very, very popular process. So we needed to come with something that we knew that was actually going to work and hopefully not have the contamination that we're having somewhat today. So we went from the tarps, then we actually went with the round module picker. We actually used net wrap, and the net wrap worked extremely well. And we thought we had something right then and there that was going to be very effective, going to hold the module together, and it did hold the module together. However, even though it was not a solid sheet or anything, the concept was still there that it would shed water, because it's going to follow the vertical lines of that, what we call a fronzy, so the water did run off. However, what we found once it got to a gin, like Jim's, when they started to cut this net wrap off, it was white net wrap with a green stripe on it, like John Deere net wrap is today. Well, when you cut the net wrap, it was so tight with that 5,000 pounds of cotton, it would open up, and you didn't know whether you were getting net wrap contamination into the cotton at that point in time or not. So we decided that was not the way to go. So that's when we decided, since we already had a relationship with Tama in Israel, and they were a plastics company, and we should back up a second. There was no company out there that had the ability at that point in time to make a piece of polyurethane 9 foot long. So we had to start from scratch, and they are basically, the Israelis are engineering wizards. So they came up with a design, they came up with a machine, and made the RMW, and it is what it is today. So with that being said, that's kind of how I wanted to lead into the contamination issue. And what we're doing today versus what we've been talking about like 3 seasons ago. If you all remember and you all know, we have what we call the separation label on our wrap. It's the little white label that's about 4 inches by 6 inches long. It's got a serial number on it, and it's on the tail. And when you find that, we were saying if you could find the tail and you found that metallic label, and we're talking about gin processes and after gin, if you would rotate or go 180 degrees from the opposite side of where that label is located and make your cut, then you were going to get all the wrap off in one piece. And that was pretty effective, and it worked, but it still left it to, pretty much a guessing game. So today, as of February, we finally got the approval with the trademark system that we have that's going to be on. And I can't say every portion this season, but the majority of them, because we had already made several 100,000 portions for this year's season to be used. It does not have what we call the indicator cut line on the wrap itself. So you're going to still see some that's going to be kind of peppered out through the country, but as a whole, moving forward from today or from May 1st, you're going to have an indicator cut line, and I'm going to explain to you what that really means to not only the gins, but it also means a lot to the producer and the gentleman that's actually running the picker or stripper, because it's got a way that you can actually see it and know where you need to cut it, and it'll be set right out on the ground, and you're going to be able to actually physically see that cut line. And I'm going to have David Hale help me with the prototype roll that we have here.
Each portion, so like David was saying earlier, and for the gins, you actually got the ability to, when it runs across their bridge and their technology, that they can pick up one of these RFID tags somewhere on that module when it's inside the module truck. Or for the producer that wants to drive alongside these modules with his pickup and have a hand reader, you'll be able to pick that up as well. So it's on every module, all right? And this is the non-tacky material, and we're pulling this out, and we all know that, I always like to tell people, each portion of round module wrap, I could be standing right here, and David could be standing clear back there at that door, and that's one portion. We're talking 70 feet of polyurethane on each portion. So that means that if you're making a 92-inch bale, 94-inch bale, or if you're getting to the end of the field and you're making what we call the little round one that's 36 inches big, or the cigars we call them, you're still going to put 70 feet of wrap on that one portion, okay? Keep that in mind. All right, okay, non-tacky material, and when you get to where we call what we're calling the joining portion right here of the non-tacky and the tacky material, we call that the AB joint. We are now today going to put an indicator cut line on every portion on our wrap. And what this means is, this wrap is made in Israel for the Australian market, it's made for Turkey, it's made for India, and even this, of course, right here, this here is Portuguese, but that is made in, we actually have a factory in Brazil that makes everything for the Brazilian market. But we have to keep everything pretty standard so everybody can possibly read it. But what we're saying is 3 feet, and we got 1 meter. But if you look at this arrow, where we've got it today, that means 3 feet. We're talking right here. So when you see this, in this line, you go 3 feet, you cut this wrap, and you're going to get all the material basically off the module on the feeder floor. You're not going to get that little 1 foot piece that's going to be 9 foot long that actually could go into the cotton and start the contamination process. So we're trying to be as proactive as we possibly can with our wrap, and we can, if we can get the gins to buy into what we're saying, we can eliminate RMW cotton wrap contamination. Then we can move on to the other issues with the bark and the Dollar General bags, and that way we can get back to where we need to be with American cotton and have it to be the best in the world, and it doesn't have any contamination. And that's everybody's goal, and that's where we want to be, all right, moving forward. Okay, when you get right here at the end of the tacky material, this is not really about contamination, but it's something that we all need to be aware of. When this does the separation, and this is what we call the C-lock, so we're separating from the portion that is actually inside the module of the picker that you just wrapped, and this is the tail area we just talked about with this cut-off label, which is the metallic label, and basically it's a sensor on the left-hand side and the back of the machine that's shooting a red light down, and all it's designed to do is this metallic label stops the light, tells the machine, hey, we've wrapped the module, put the brake on to do the separation, okay? But when you do the separation, what happens, and this adhesive here on this tail is something else. I mean, it sticks. However, in the process, we know that we're out in derby crop operations and dust is blowing, and what happens, let's say, about the time that the brake comes on and we do the separation, and a big gust of wind comes across east to west on this machine and throws some dirt up in here. And when this tail actually sticks to the module and you put it out on the handler and it goes out onto the ground, by golly, it looks perfect, like it's stuck like it's supposed to be, okay? Well, yeah, it is a fact. But, you know, possibly 2-3 hours later, this tail can start to lift. And if it lifts, you know, we don't like it. It could flap in the wind out there. However, because of this tacky material against the non-tacky material, it sticks together and you still have a good weather-tight package. We don't like it cosmetically the way it looks. We ask you to, if the tail does come loose, we ask the operator and the producer to actually go out and cut that tail off and put that in your pickup. Let's don't leave it in the field like sometimes that I do see. Tape it, and basically what I'm saying for you to do is, if you cut that lip off and it's flapping into the wind, when Jim's modular trucks come to pick it up, there's less chance of the modular truck grabbing the loose end and scraping it against the side of the modular truck, and then you could have an open module at that point in time. But as long as it's got the tacky material, it's going to hold together and it's going to stay together, and you're going to be able to pick it up with your tractor and handler and put it in pods of 4 without any problems, okay? But that's what I want to talk about there real quick. And lastly, David talked about these plastic guide fingers. These here can be the culprit for a lot of issues with the wrapping the starter roll. However, before it backs up and wraps that starter roll, you see those kind of hard to see from way up here and you're on the back. We've got nicks in these fingers. You know what those nicks are from? Any idea? Well, they're from forming belt splices on the belt. Because what happens is, when these roll up like this and they don't go back straight, a lot of friction. Those belts are going around and around and around, and finally they'll wear a hole in it like this. So what happens then, when they're sitting like this on the feeder floor and this wrap is coming in, starting to come in, and it actually is freewheeling. It's unlike a round Baylor wrapping mechanism. This wrap actually is fed in with conveyor belts that Dave talked about just for a split second. And those are just brought into where the rotation of that round module inside that bale chamber is actually moving around, and it's designed for that, to just grab that wrap and start the rotation method and come into the module. So it's freewheeling. Well, what happens is if they end up like this, that wrap's got no place to go. And we're talking a split second, like that right there. It's all it takes for that to hesitate that long. Then the wrap backs up, and when the wrap backs up, 70 feet of that wrap goes on the starter roll. Not a good thing. You all don't like it, we don't like it. Then you got to stop the machine, you got to roll all that wrap off, because what happens is, then with the non-tacky and the tacky material, and you got 70 feet of that on that starter roll, it's as hard as a rock. You know, it's something. Okay, then when we pull it off, there could be some tacky material left on that starter roll. And if that happens, there's always that possibility too of some of that tacky material getting into the next portion of the wrap. So what we suggest you do, and a lot of people don't listen to us, and this is what we said from day one, you know, you got to clean that rubber roll after you have one that actually wraps that roll. And you want to clean it. If you don't have my trusty old can of acetone that we have talked about for years and years, and I carry a case of this in my pickup during harvest. When I travel around the country, we have issues, I just leave a can of this with the operator inside the cab. Well, most of you will use paint thinner, alcohol. Actually, the best thing to use if you don't have anything like this at all is just good old Texas curd. Rub it on that starter roll, and that'll get rid of a lot of the tacky material. And if a metallic label actually sticks to that rubber roll, it's actually better to leave that on till the end of the day when you come in there and everybody cleans their machine at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They'll be to get rid of all that excess cotton and debris that's in there. Right? You know, my dad always said, nothing good happens after midnight. Okay? My grandma, she said, nothing good happens after dark. So if you don't stop at 5 o'clock and take the time to clean that machine, I'll guarantee you, I'm going to get a call on Sunday afternoon, and when not Sunday afternoon, I'm going to get a call Sunday afternoon from Shop at Farm Supply or one of the John Deere dealers and say, this wrap's no good. This wrap in the rubber roll just every doggone time. What's wrong with it? Well, it's usually at 8, 9 o'clock when all this stuff starts. So I kind of know my phone's going to ring during harvest. But anyway, that's just kind of just a little short story about what we talked about. But these things here, by design, they're supposed to curl up like this because when you open up the gate on that picker, the forming belts, by design, are supposed to back up about 18 to 20 inches each time because what it's doing is kind of helping you. It's getting rid of that chaff and that excess cotton that gets in between the forming belts and the pulleys. So they want these to get up and out of the way. So they'll bend up like this so the debris can get out, but they're supposed to go back straight. And after a while, they won't. And then David said you can turn them over and you can run them like this for a while because the wrap can still get through, but eventually they're going to do the same thing. So I would suggest if you've got doesn't matter whether it's a CP690 or 7760, if you haven't looked at these and done anything about possibly changing these, I'd be getting to the Shop at Farm Supply and seeing about, getting a set of them just to have, because I'm going to tell you, it's going to happen, and then, I can't help you with contamination then, and even though I'll do warranty on one of your portions that back up and wrap that rubber roll, as long as I've got one of the RFID tags or the metallic label and you take it into the John Deere store, I'll give you warranty for that portion, but chances are I'm giving warranty that's not really a wrap issue, it's really a machine issue, but we're still, we're just kind of like the old John Deere store, our company was made up of John Deere employees and old retired John Deere employees like me, so we treat customers right. So keep that in mind, and I know I kind of rambled a little bit, but contamination is our biggest issue, and I think by what we're doing with this indicator cut line, we can eliminate it. We can get the support and help from everybody. All right? Thank you.
So kind of my topics is, first thing I'm going to start out with is water while we're digging. I think my experience through the years has been that I think all of us will use too much water. And we'll talk about that. The correct way to make a module with our machines and the tarping process makes nice storage terms and best practices for storing. So here's my story on how much water to use. I get through cleaning the machine in the water in the morning, and I go to the water tank and I open the valve and I try to clean my hands. If they won't clean my hands, I ain't gonna clean the stem. It's like I've always thought, when you go to wash your hands, you don't only need water, you need soap and water, and you need to scrub it. Without any of that, you're not gonna get your hands clean. So I think we need to start using less water, more soap, the right kind of soap. And a good way to try it is to start backing off on water pressure until you start, I don't want you to route because we all know how much fun that is, but let's start backing off a little bit until we start seeing some gumminess on the spindles, and then maybe increasing this a little bit. That water winds up in your air ducts where this green machine watering machine, and it just makes a cloggy, nasty mess. And it winds up in the module. And a lot of times it can add to too much moisture in a module. And when you start having spindle wrapping problems, let's check our moisture pads and make sure they're adjusted correctly so that we're getting that scrubbing action before we start just turning water pressure up. just got this slide in here, we still pick from both sides, and by doing that, we do not run scrappy plates. We don't recommend running scrappy plates, which we hope helps us as far as parking and some of the other contamination that's not plastic. Starting in last year's production, we're running a jet post kit. Basically, we're blowing hot air. The air coming out of those fans that you've ever felt in is not cool, it's hot. So we're blowing hot air under the doffer stack and down the chutes, the back chutes and front chutes or doors. And basically, it's not the air blast that's helping us blow the cotton. Basically, what it's doing is keeping all that stuff dry, so we don't get all those wads of wet, nasty material built up on the back of the doors. And that kit is a retro kit that you can order. As far as building modules, in 2015, we started playing a little bit with software. What we ran into is I'd go visit customers, and I'd visit this guy over here, and he was making beautiful, perfect modules. I'd go down the road five miles, and that guy was just, everyone come out was falling apart. So we got to looking, and we got to thinking, what's going on? What's happening? You know, both machines were built the same. There's no difference in them. And what we come to find out, a couple of things. One is there was too much operator had to be involved in it. A good operator that watched everything and was involved in every step of the module building process could do it good. The guy that we didn't get to the teach or didn't really care, I was trying to just get to the end of the road, didn't make a good module. So we started playing with software, and we actually got the software where let the machine build its own module. You don't have to intervene anymore, let it do its thing. And we started seeing a more consistency with all our modules, and I think you saw that last year at the gym, that the modules were a little more consistent now than they had been in the past. So if you have a machine that you don't think about this module, you need to let Terry the people know, and let's get it on there. It's probably the most thing that we've changed since we came out with the machine to make good quality modules. Don't overfill the module. It's not worth 100 pounds more to tear up the top of that module, because the more you put in there, the looser the top becomes, and there's no need to overfill it. It's not worth 100 pounds. And when that happens, like I said, the top's loose, and when you unload it, you get a little spillage. Now with this new software, when the module's full, unload it. There's no need to sit there and continue to pack. It's not making any difference. Module unloading. What I like to see, if you can imagine, the chamber's tilted back like this, so the module's coming off. So as it comes off at an angle, the leading edge or the rear edge of that module hits the ground first, and if you're sitting still, it's going to tuck it under. And the module's going to look like this on that end. So I like to say be going about 1.2 to 1.5 miles an hour. That way when that module comes off, it stands it straight up. And then as you get to the end of it, slow down, and then you tuck the front end under as you're slowing down. And it tends to stand that module straight up and down, and it gives that module a crank that we've already talked about. That's very important for a tarp. Tarping needs to be done as soon as possible after unloading. Wind gets in it, it's just better if you can tarp it as soon as it comes off the machine. Ignore that next statement. It's good practice. If you're the center of the tarp as well, please tell me no, we don't want to do that. I forgot to take that out. Just ignore that. People in Kansas in the real windy areas of the country don't have any choice. Key thing, make sure the ends of those tarps are pulled all the way down, and that tarp sprout is tight. If that happens, chances are, especially on a mini module, chances are the wind is not going to let it tarp. So that's the key, is to making sure it's tight, making sure it's down on the ends, and like the picture of the module probably gave, it's a perfect module. If you don't see that crown in the center, either you're not pulling that top down far enough, or you're not unloading, so you're tucking those ends up. If you do that, it'll create a crown and you'll pull the shit off. As far as storage goes, if you get the tarp on good, and get it tight, and get that crown, and, you know, if you unload it in a creek bed, there ain't a whole lot anybody can do about it. And it don't matter if it's a round module or a square module or traditional module or mini module. It needs to be on a high dry area. That's not always time efficient, but that's where it needs to be.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about, we went from round in their route and square or rectangular or whatever in their route, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the route and how we want, our insurance company wants us to tie in tarp. And so I've got Gail Seller with Grail Springs with me today, I'm sorry, and Gail is, she's with Indigo Products. San Marcos, we buy most all our tarps from them. They make them to our specifications. And I'll let her tell you a little bit about the material we use, and then we'll show how we want you to tarp model. Okay?
Hi, thanks Jimmy for inviting me. We do make the modules for Jimmy. We make them in San Marcos. We also make Staymark, which I'm going to put a little plug in. It's a non-contaminating module marking ink, which we hope all of you use. The tarps, though, are made out of a tri-laminate polypropylene material. They are waterproof, not water resistant, and they don't have the scrim in them, so they don't fray. You don't want to cut it because the imports typically will go back together because of that scrim, but they also will fray. So these are more a non-contaminating material. And just aside, this material is made here in Texas, so that tarp is entirely made in the state of Texas. I know that Jimmy has a special way he wants these tied down. I don't know if you want me to tell him or you tell him.
Yeah, what's up?
Okay. I mean, he likes to use a belly band. That's where you take a piece of cord strap and put it completely around the module and tighten it. You got to cinch it tight so that it's not going to move.
We like to see you make this module string, wrap it all the way around this module, put a loop in one end, and then you just cinch it down so it cinches to the bottom of this module.
Okay, and that's permanent. That's going to stay there.
We've been talking about polyester and contamination all day long. This is polyester guys. If you run it under the module starts going to cut it. If you run it through the module, we ain't going to get it all out. You got problems. And when you do each one of those, the module truck cuts it, there's no support on that part. We like to see you wrap this all the way around the module, pull it back, put an iron in it, just pull it as tight as you can get it. You get it really, really tight. Then you come right here in the center, and you tie to that center ring. You see how I got that? You pull that down, that's the kind of grip you got. So you pull it from either end, put it in a real bind, it's got to pull through that module and come out. Everybody understand that?
Right off the ground, you want that strap 6 inches, 1 foot, 18 inches?
Say a foot or so off the ground.
About a foot to 18 inches,
Yeah.
but a foot minimum.
I'm sorry?
1 foot minimum, no lower than 1 foot?
Yeah, no, don't go any lower than a foot.
Okay.
You pull that up just as tight as you can get it, and when you get that, those on either side tight, you got this good feed, good pull, you come back and put these intermediate ties, and you pull it again. When you get that done, you got this part will stay on. 99% of the time. The hurricane may get it off, but I promise you, the neat thing about it is at the chin, we're not picking it up out of the blower, we're not picking it up, we try to get it out of the cotton on the smooth middle, or it's underneath. That's the way we need all module prep.
Hey Jimmy, you know, one of the problems with that, I mean, it makes it easier for the farmer to do just what you're talking about.
Right.
But to me, you know, I heard like in West Texas, they take a rod, like 2 foot with a little ring on it, and they stab it right there in the middle at an angle going up. And then they tie that center because, you know what happens, that wind blows on it, it ends up like a parachute after a while. You know, I mean, you need somehow to tighten it up right there in the middle. So when you get 40-mile-an-hour winds, or like 70 or something, maybe it'll push up against that module and it won't be getting under. You know, so we need
The only thing
to,
about the
I
water,
mean, we need to do something a little more than just that.
I promise you, you do this, you go to put rods in there, there's gonna be a problem. It'll be a fire or something. They used to do that.
I mean, after 50-mile-an-hour wind, I don't think that's very bad.
They'll make us mad.
Jimmy, my problem is the grommets on the tarp itself. Last year, we had brand new tarps, and those grommets are just glued on there. The first time you go to cinch it down, the grommet comes off.
We did get a set of tarps last year that we bought someplace else that we didn't like. They were a problem.
I mean, I had 25, all 25 of them. I put cinches, and the grommets came off.
What happened, and I tell you, this was a big problem last year. What happened is that in that big year, we ran out of tarps.
Right.
Dale didn't have any, and we had to get tarps before we could. Some of those were not very good. Then we had a few that came from her that had a bad, where it was sealed, was a problem. But some of those tarps you're talking about were not this problem with this polyethylene stuff. It was meshed up. We don't like any of the meshed up. Sure, they're cheaper, but what we've seen when that happens, is when water piles up on top of those, a little bit of wind blows, that mesh gets holes in it, and that water will go right straight down the bottom.
One thing I do want to say about the grommets, and I don't know, how that particular cover was made, but we have rope
Right here. And the holes go through, so they're on top of the rope. So when you take this strap, not only is the grommet holding it, but the rope that's going around right here. You're going to be tying all that together. So it's going to keep the grommet sturdy, and it's going to keep the rope right there and then the bottom rope. So it should reinforce.
between all of that. It should reinforce and keep that cover on very well.
We have a hard time getting that rope out of the center of it or underneath it, because it normally gets cut by the module frame. And that gets here, it's slopping, and it'll fall off. That's where your insurance company, huge insurance claim this year, and that's real critical on how we tarp and what we're talking about, how we tarp it. So this particular material, when we went to this material after 1991, we had so much problem.
Jimmy, please go to the mic because 90% of us can't hear you.
Sorry about that. 1991, before we went to this material, Mike Reed was out in our yard doing modules, and we had a lot of rain that year, if you remember. Mike was out in the yard checking modules, and he got under one of our brand new tarps because it was raining. And he looked up and he saw all these little pinholes. It never occurred to me, or anybody on our staff, or anybody, that whenever we picked up a module, there was no water on top of it. The very next year, we went to these tarps. She made a bunch of them for us. We still got some in production that's still being used today. When we went to picking up modules, water came off of them. So what was happening through those pinholes is we were getting, it didn't take but just a little bit of water leaking that module, and then you start a heat and a sweat. And what we found out back then was we weighed a module when it came in, we waited for it, we ginned it, and some of those modules gained 2,000 pounds of water just from sweat and that small amount of water that went down the first time. So we use these tarps and we really like them. They're actually, you can turn this over and carry water in it and it won't leak out. Use it like a bucket. But this is just a small replica that Gail brought with her today so we could talk about how to time. And I promise you, if you do it that way, it'll be as best as we can make it. And I know in West Texas they used to put some rods in there. I don't think today there's anybody putting rods in modules. Do you think, Bill? I mean, way back there they did.
But it's still, you you look at it from an engineering standpoint, you're running a piece of string from one end to the other, and you're pulling in the middle. It's not a very good design on the string, or that string. But if that's the way y'all want us to do it, we'll do it.
We'll come out and help you, but I promise you, it's the best way to time. I don't know any other way to time that'll make any better. If you go in there and you go get them with the truck, you go through the middle, you're gonna get caught.
I realize that you get a lot of contamination when you run it under. So I don't know there is a solution other than.
Well, yeah,
Maybe we don't get a more than 40 mile an hour wind.
we hope we don't have that. That's the biggest deal. Any other questions about that? Gail, thank you very much.
You gotta make sure that the modules around it though, also,
Okay, next,
Jimmy, real quick, are we getting new module tarps this year?
sure, we are getting some new ones, and we also, every module tarp we got will be picked up, and I will talk about this later, but I'll talk about it right now, will be picked up and repaired. So, if you got tarps in your barn, I'm saying bring them back immediately, because everything is going in to be repaired, and what is not repairable will get thrown away. We got new tarps ordered already, yes.
Okay, so they're gonna repair the cinch ropes too, because most of the ropes that you cinch the tarp, they've been cut,
They'll put new ropes in them, yeah, they'll put new ropes in them, but I promise you this, the very first year we bought those tarps right there, the very first year, the first ones that came in, somebody put it on upside down, and guess what, they couldn't see the road, so every module, they had to cut the sides of it and tighten the rope, and tied the string on it that way. Brand new tarps. First day they came in, you know.
Yeah, and that's what this meeting's for us to talk and settle some issues, but we are sending all our tarps
Back to be reconditioned. They'll probably be picked up in about a month, but they'll be back in about a month also. About 3 weeks after they're done, but they'll go through every one of them. If it's not repairable, it'll be thrown away. And we have ordered new minis and new regular tarps also.
Next on the agenda,
One of the problems, or one of the is the use of the PCCA bookkeeping program for all our cotton. Real instrumental in us getting the insurance claim this year that we got, because Chris Quinn is our PCCA rep. He was the one that helped us get all the information in the system so that we could look at turnouts, we could look at grade loss, we could look at they're valuable to us, and he's going to talk about the app, and the app is something I would wish today that everybody here would study if you're not using it. It works really cool, and I'll let him tell you about it, Chris.
All right, thank you, Jimmy. I don't have a PowerPoint, and I don't know how to talk about contamination, so I'm getting totally off subject here. We refer to this as an app. It's actually your web browser on a smartphone. I have run into a couple of producers that still use a flip phone. That is not a smartphone, and you will not be able to use the web browser from there. But as long as you have an Android or an iPhone or smartphone, you can use our website. You go to www.pcca.com. Now, if you don't understand these instructions at the very beginning, that's fine. Sally has volunteered to help set up your account for the first time to get you started. I also would recommend, if you're using an iPhone, I would probably go home and use a PC to set my account up to begin with, so that you don't have as many mistakes, because an iPhone is very difficult for me to see and touch the screen. So go home to a PC where you can see it and use the keyboard to get your account set up. Go by the gym, and Sally can help you set your account as well. Once you get logged into the computer, or get logged into our website on your smartphone, you can check the box to keep you logged in permanently so that you don't have to keep doing that. Once you get in there, all of your accounts that you have with the gym are on there. You're going to use your tax ID number, your social security number,
whatever you're using at the Farm Service Agency is what you're going to be using on the website. So once you get in, all of your accounts at the gym will be listed on your phone. Now, the first thing I would ask you to do, the easiest way to keep things accurate, and we talked about insurance and using the right farm numbers, the best thing you can do is keep your accounts current. And the fastest way to keep your accounts current is to take your 578 that you get from the Farm Service Agency to the gym. Now, I've had people bring me their 578s, and traditionally what they'll do is they'll send me just the pages that have cotton on them. I recommend you take your entire 578 to the gym, whether you have cotton on that farm or not, because the gym has a listing of all of your farms on their computer. Each account is associated to a farm number. Some accounts may have multiple, or some farm numbers may have multiple accounts because you're keeping tracks for insurance purposes. But if you bring in your entire 578, the gym can compare that to what they have. If you have accounts that are not yours anymore, the farm number has changed, you no longer farm that piece of property, it will not be on your 578 because you're no longer farming that piece of property. The gym can use that information to delete those accounts off of their computer so that when you take your phone out to the field at harvest time, you only have a listing of farms that are actually yours. One example I have another gym that they had never cleaned their accounts up, and they had 168 pages worth of accounts at the gym. There's approximately 20 accounts per page. I sent my field rep down there to help them clean up their stuff. They merely deleted the dead people. That's all they did, is delete all the people that had died over the years. And they went from 168 pages down to 92, just getting rid of the dead folks. And you can only imagine what they would do if they cleaned up the farms that didn't exist anymore, or the farms that you don't farm anymore. So I highly recommend, once you've got your 578 from the Farm Service Agency, take it by the gym. Make a copy of it, take it by the gym, and drop it off at the gym so they can clean your accounts up. Now that you've gotten logged into your telephone and you've got your accounts cleaned up, when you get to harvesting your cotton, you can call in your modules using your smartphone. You pull up, you log into the account, you find the farm number you're looking for, read the account titles. Those account titles, a lot of folks think that that's a PCCA computer or system, that these account titles mean something to us. They do not. They're account titles between the gin and the producer, and whatever that makes sense to y'all works for us. So you log in, you tell it how many modules you have, and you hit submit. It's going to ask you, are you standing by your modules? If you say yes, it will come down and find your longitude, latitude, and find out exactly where you're at. It will send that map to the gym, or the location of those modules. Now, United Ag does a great job. They have a great job of having all of the farms that they know of that are mapped. If you pull up their maps on their computers, it has all of y'all's farms located. But the problem with those maps are, it may be in the southeast corner of the field, and the modules are built on the northwest side of the field. The driving instructions may be totally different to get the module truck to this side of the field versus this side. So if you're using your smartphone and you're calling in your modules with your smartphone, and you tell it, I am sitting next to my modules, it will find you and it will tell the gym exactly where they're at. We still know that this is where the farm is, where they flagged originally, but this is where the modules are this year. When we roll our accounts into next year, all of those things that y'all call in for smartphone will disappear. So next year, if you end up building the modules on the east corner of the field, it will pick up where you're at using the app. So these maps will not roll into the next year, the ones that you call in, so your modules can change locations from year to year, and that's not a problem. So it would help greatly with the gin side of being able to find your modules. Keeping your accounts clean is huge. As Jimmy mentioned on the insurance, and Dwight will tell you that we're working on a new farm bill. When we came into the Freedom Farm Act, we really quit worrying a lot about going to the Farm Service Agency and improving our yields. So we kind of got a little lackadaisical on making sure we had the right farm number when we were running our cotton through the system. Price of cotton got high enough that you weren't worried about a loan deficiency payment, you weren't necessarily worried about putting it in the loan, and you didn't have to worry about proving your yields. When a hurricane hit, that's the first thing the insurance company was looking for. how do you prove that those are the modules with that farm number? So if we do a little extra preventive maintenance and make sure that we have the actual right farm numbers, and we're calling these modules in on the right farm number at the very, very beginning, then we're giving the insurance company the information that they want, and they don't get that uneasy feeling in their stomach when we go to moving modules around later in life. So, we understand mistakes were made. You're liable to pick the wrong farm number, and that's understandable, but if we can do a little pre-maintenance at the beginning, we won't be moving modules around. I know Chris and April and Sally would greatly appreciate not having to reverse the tickets and changing the modules around. So, you never know when a hurricane may hit, you never know when the farm bill may change, you have to prove your modules. So it's best that we have the right information at the very beginning. After the modules are called in, the gens will get them. Chris will be able to dispatch the trucks directly to the modules. You'll be able to watch that through your phone or your computer, whichever the case may be. It'll show that the modules are still in the field. When they come pick them up, it'll show that they've been moved to the gen, what the weight of those modules are, where they're located in the gen yard. Once they start genning, the modules will start going away. Your bill information will start coming in, your bill weights, your warehousing, the classing data. And then from there, you'll be able to market your cotton. I want to do that very quick, but I notice it's getting close to 6. I'm standing between y'all and dinner. Thank y'all very much.
The model's called in. So if a guy on his phone is hitting his app and calling in modules, and you call in, all those that hit that phone first are going to be ahead of you. So be sure, try to use the app. What it does is it goes right straight to our dispatch, and our dispatch can send that right straight to the trucks. The trucks all have iPads, and so they go straight to that module. They never have to come in the office. They never have to stop. They can continue. They unload their module. They already got the assignment for the next one. They just don't waste a lot of time, and it works out really, really well.
I got a question. Can you use multiple phones on this app?
Yes. The sign-on, you could have multiple phones. It's the same sign-on, same username, same password. And I also failed to mention, if you have 2 different ID numbers, you may be farming under your name and also under an entity. You'll set up an account for both of them, and just give me a call, and I'll link them together so you can use one sign-on to get to both of them. We'll have one as the primary, and you just have to put it back in. But yes, you can use multiple phones.
Some of the procedures and stuff that we've changed or working on this year at the gym and things that a lot of this will be repetitive of what you already heard. But first of all, I'll say use the app, enter modules. This is the very simplest process there is, and it just works so smooth. Modules will be picked up in the number sequence unless where we put them on the lot is too many and it rains and we have to skip them, and we'll come back to them when it's dry, and then that happens. If by chance you got modules that you called in and all of a sudden it's fixing to come a bad rainstorm and those modules are getting ready to be picked up and you think they're in a really, really good place, but you have some modules that would be coming up later, we can substitute that. You can say, leave those in the field and please pick these up, and we can do those things. One thing I'll ask you is if you got different farm numbers, different track numbers, or different producers on the same field, to make double sure that you stack those modules differently, because they all look alike, especially if they're round, they all look alike. We say stage the modules correctly, and you've all heard the big problem we had last year is a lot of modules were butted right up to each other, the rounds, particularly the rounds, what I'm talking about now. And basically what happens when it rained, they just got wet and that metal rotted really bad, cost us a lot of problems getting cotton. So leave 6 to 8 inches between each round module when you put it in the field. And we will make sure that our people this year do the same on the yard, because we were guilty of some of our truck drivers not do that right. It's best not to lay those round modules in the field on stalks. Because you heard Bill say a while ago, if a ground has a puncture, it's more likely to have contamination. Also on the rounds, make sure you stage them on level ground. Because if we're picking them up with the module truck, and that ground is a little uneven, that bed comes up, and then it goes back down, and you're gonna tear holes in that module, that plastic module. So as much as you can, fix a spot to put your modules where they're level. If you're picking up modules out of the field, rounds I'm talking about, don't push or drag them, because some of this you've already heard. Mark modules with the farm number. Please make the writing large enough the module trucks can see it clearly from their trucks. And again, if you're going to spray paint the outside of the module, a lot of folks use marker on the plastic. If you're going to spray paint, make sure you use the stay marker paint, because it is approved, it won't stain the cotton. Place modules on high ground where they can stay until it's time to gin them. In the past, everybody expected us to pick up modules every day. There's no way. We don't have the room in the yard, nor do we have the trucks to pick up modules every day. And some of our yard spots are worse than some of your field spots, so we try not to put modules on those spots. So we're asking you to please try to take a lot of concern and make sure you got a place to put your modules that they can stay dry, hot and high and dry. Busted modules, we've been picking them up in the past. We will have a fee for picking up busted modules, because it takes normally 2 men in one truck, and we have to go a long way to pick them up. It's a big cost. What you'll see in some of the things I'm saying today is that we're trying to equate costs. We're cooperative, and we don't want you paying for anybody else's mistakes or paying for anybody else's what it costs the co-op. So some of these things are particularly to try to get everybody on an even keel. Modules must be made before they're called in. Every year we have a few that will call them in. When we go out there and pick them up, they ain't made or they ain't there. We can't have that. And if we can get it, we're going to put you at the bottom of the list. We just cannot. It's got to be done right. We can't void tags. It messes up our system. We keep looking for that module, keep wondering where it is and how we may have lost it. Please watch the moisture on your cotton while you're picking. You've seen information today to show what it costs if you pick cotton wet. We're in the process, and we're working really, really hard to try to identify the moisture on the cotton that you're picking, or then when that module comes in. We want to get to a point, I don't know if we do it, probably won't be done this year, but we're getting close. Probably will be a point where we'll gin by the hour, or we'll gin by the moisture with a discount for our moisture. It's something that we need to get to, because right now, if a guy brings in 15, 18% moisture and we gin 10 bales an hour, and the next guy picked his cotton at 8% moisture and we gin at 60 bales an hour, the cost is tremendous. And everybody that did it right is paying for it. So we're going to be a lot more critical. We want to get to that point where we can identify the moisture in those modules and identify where the problem is, whether it's in cost per hour or what. But we got to get costs where we're having costs. I showed how much you can pay for grade loss for picking cotton wet. It does slow down the ginning. Watch for foreign matter in the field. These are things you've already heard today. Plastic, any grease, watch when you're greasing the module builder or whatever. Greasing cotton is a problem also. It's a contaminant. One of the things that we've offered and we did for a number of years, and it seems like everybody has forgotten about it today or doesn't hear anymore, but if you give us the varieties on your field, when we get through ginning, because of the PCCA system and the intelligence system, we can class every variety. So if you got a DPNL whatever, I can tell you how that graded over this whole area and how many bales was in that test. So I'm asking our producers, this is valuable information. If we can get the varieties that are, and get it over a big region, it's better than any test plot we can get. You say, well, okay, I'll turn them in. Well, you can start turning them in today. You can come in and say, hey, Sally, here, Chris, hey, whoever, this is the variety I have on this farm. It'll already be in the system. Very, very valuable information that we can put together for this gin and produce to you at the end of the year, so you can see how the varieties you chose graded in every category. Hurricane insurance. I appreciate the patience that everybody had this year in us trying to get our claims done and done right. And we spent a lot of hours working on those claims. Thank God for Chris and PCCA, they got a lot of that information for us. As of about 2-3 weeks ago, I think everybody has gotten paid. We looked at a lot of different issues. We never could find a flaw in the way our insurance was claimed. And the claims, we couldn't find any issues in any of those. And we were very proud to have the coverage we had last year. But you know, as with all insurances, if you have claims, what happens to the rate? Not only what happens to the rate, but we had to go back to a group of the 25 gins in the upper Gulf Coast because the company in this last year couldn't cover us. There wasn't enough premium from one gin that they would take the risk for this one gin. So we got back in the pool with those other gins. And the premium goes up. So the premium that will be paid this year, this is by the insurance company, we didn't have anything to do with it. For minis and conventionals, it will be a $5 bale insurance premium for hurricane insurance. For round modules, $275 per bale. And this they based off of what the losses were and where they were, not from our gym, but from the whole group. We'll have about the same coverage as last year. There will be a bigger deductible and probably be a $40 million cap instead of the $50 million cap we had last year. But we were so relieved to find that we could get insurance, because there were a few days there when we didn't think we were going to be able to have insurance anymore. So everybody's seen the proper procedure. We like for tying down tarps. Please take the time and do it right. Again, I'll say this again, all tarps will be sent off for repair, so if you got any in your barns, bring them back just as soon as you can. We've had, over the last 5 years, we've spent $255,000 for tarps. We're going to spend a lot of money for tarps this year. So we looked at that cost, and since 71% of our modules in rounds, or those guys are paying their own charge, we figured up a surcharge to help us cover the cost on the module tarps. And basically, the way that worked is the round modules, 4 round modules, this year averaged 20,376 pounds, which is 17.83 bales. 2 minis averaged 8,414 pounds each. That was 14.73 bales. And the conventionals were 19,357 bales, or 16.94 bales. What we do is we pay a mileage charge and we pay a per module charge. And when you look at that on a cost basis, when you look at those numbers, that basically we have let's go back to the tarp cost. We took the average tarp on a mini is $80, 2 of them's 160, which equals 1 module to us. So we took that figure and we said we'll use those tarps twice, 3 years, twice. So we divided that by 6. And we came up with the freight charge on the less bales and the module charge on the less bales. The upcharge on the minis this year will be $3.46 per bale. The upcharge on the conventionals will be $1.59 per bale. And that gets everybody on equal terms. And our board has ratified that, looked at the numbers, and we're just trying to make everything fair. We're covering all our costs, and nobody's paying, nobody's getting broke in that deal. And we pay our dividends, hopefully it'll be equated and everybody will get their dividend. There's some folks that make round models that want to haul them themselves, and that's fine. We don't have a problem with that. And we'll pay the regular rate of what it costs for us to haul models. The only thing is, if they haul 6 on a truck, we count 4 modules, 4 rounds as a module. So that's a module and a half. And it's really tough for our system to handle that. So if you're gonna haul your own modules, and you're hauling 6, you gotta have 2 trucks run together. We can't have 1 truck coming with 6 modules. It just won't work in our system. And basically, if you haul your own modules again, and you tell us that you wanna haul them, we will tell you when those numbers come up, and then you'll start the hauling procedure. One of the things that's a huge problem this year when cotton is as short as it is that there's a lot of buyers out there looking for cotton. And so there's so many contracts out there, I can't tell you how many different contracts there are. There's probably people in this room that's got cotton contract that we don't even know you got contracted, who you got it contracted with. Be sure and read your contracts, because your contract may say that your cotton's got to be delivered to Galveston or Houston or somewhere else. If that's the case, we got to get warehouse tags from those warehouses. We got to group your cotton when we're jetting that cotton that goes to those warehouses. And we cannot be responsible if we didn't know and we ship cotton to Gulf Compressor or our warehouse when it should have gone to Houston or Carpus. There will be a charge. They're going to, if we send it to Carpus and it's to Houston and it's supposed to be somewhere else, they're going to charge us. They're going to charge you. So be assured and get with our folks as soon as possible on any contracts that did come through United Ag, and let us know who you may have contracted with and where that cotton's got to go. Because it's very, very important. Because we got to contact that warehouse to give us enough tags for every one of those bales and anybody else that's contracted there. And if we were to run out of those tags in the middle of your modules, we got to stop. So it helps us prepare, and it just something we got to do. So anybody that contracted somewhere else except through United Ag, please look at your contract and see where that cotton has to be delivered, and make sure we know where that has to be delivered. Also, if you're a new producer or you have a new farm, we need to know those farm numbers. We need to get them in now. We can get all that done way before season, and it's not a problem. Be sure we got the right farm numbers are turned in on the right modules. There's been times when a producer's come in and asked us to move a whole farm to another farm number. And that may be 300 or 400 bales, and Sally, or somebody has to do it 1 bale at a time. And it takes a lot of hours to do that. So make sure we get the right bales, right modules on the right farm number. Tell you a little bit about one of the things that we do is the IntelliGen system. We've run it since 1987, I think. And the IntelliGen system, if you don't know about it, it actually grades the cotton as it comes through the gin. It looks at the cotton as it comes in, it gives us a picture of how much trash is in it, takes a sample of the cotton thermometer. It also takes a picture, so we got a moisture and a picture to tell us the percentage of trash in it. As we go through our pre-cleaning, it will turn the heaters up or down to get the right moisture at the gin stand. After we go through the lint cleaner, it gets another sample so we can see what the pre-cleaning did and what the lint cleaner, before the lint cleaner, what our pre-cleaning did. And at that point, it relates that information, and then one more point at the bale where the cotton goes up to our battery condenser and the lint cleaner. It gets another sample. It compares all three of those, and it looks at the loan chart and it says, you know, it's better to have a leaf grade 4 for this producer because he's not going to lose but maybe half a cent a pound. So it automatically will bypass the lint cleaner based on the price on the loan sheet. So what happens there is, let's just say if we go through a lint cleaner bill, how much we lose, 7, 11 pounds?
Somewhere between 7 and 12, yeah.
7 and 12 pounds if we go through another lint cleaner. So at 70, 80 cents a pound, that's $8 or $10. In that system, some people, it's your choice whether you want to run it or not. It costs you $2.50 a bale. We think it's the reason that over the last probably 6 years that our turnout percentage is over the whole season has been over 41.5%. We think IntelliGen is a big part of that. And what it also does, what we have in our gin is we're able to know the moisture of that cotton before it goes in the bale, and we know the final bale moisture, so we can actually handle what moisture we get back into the cotton. So the IntelliGen system is a neat system, but you have to tell us that you want it. Most people are doing it now, but I just want to remind everybody about a lot of new producers out there. Talk a little bit about the gin. I know you've seen, and everybody says, is the Danabang gin going to be ready? Is the Hillby gin going to be ready? And guys, I'd like for all my gin, all the United Ag folks to stand up right now. And I got all the gin folks here too, because I want them to be involved in all that. Stand up, guys. But this bunch, this group, and led by our gin manager, Clay Greavy. Clay, raise your hand. A lot of folks don't know you. We got some good interns here, have done a tremendous job rebuilding the Danabang gin, doing a huge expansion for us. But y'all can sit down now. Thank y'all. Give these guys and girls a hand. We looked at, and I think Clay was probably responsible for this. He had worked for all the gins in Deere, and we looked at capacities that all gins had in Deere. We looked at how much volume they could do in a year, each gin individually. And then we looked at the acres in the 3 counties and what we might get here. And we took that to our board and realized that, you know, if we had a great year, it could be a huge year for all of us, and especially this co-op. So we felt like we needed to do something in the gin. We had spent a lot of money on assets in the grain. And so we opted to do a major overhaul in Danabang. Our goal was to try to get somewhere between 75 to 90 bales an hour. Maybe not 90 today, but we're doing the work to get there. We put in new gin stand feeders. We put in a new conveyor distributor. We put in a new seed lift because we're going to be handling more cotton. We put in all new gin feeders because we weren't getting the capacity we thought we needed out of them. We also added another Lomas 170 gin stand with Sentinel lint cleaners. We put in a battery condenser. We put in steamroller, which will get our cotton moisture, our cotton more uniform, and help our bat going into the press. We put in a new press, and we expanded the building where we have some room to park our model trucks after the season. Clay, what I'll leave out?
New module unwrapped.
Module feeder, yeah, module feeder. We put in a new module feeder and a over module unwrapper to handle the rounds.
It helps with contamination.
And helps with no contamination. So we're really proud. I'm proud of the job these guys did. All our gym hands have worked really hard, and what they've accomplished at this point in time it's been astounding. I'm just tickled to death where we are. We're excited to be ready to kick this season off. Our plans are to probably start running motors next week, maybe, Connie? 2 weeks. So things are going pretty good, and we're on. Seems like we're on time.
He'll be ready next week.
He'll be ready next week. We're running motors next week.
Motors and press next week.
Gotcha. So these guys have worked really hard, and gals, to get us out of the way. And I want to say I really appreciate this. Has been a long meeting. I thought it was something that our people need to know, so you can talk to other farmers. There's a lot of our producers that aren't here today. I know they're praying cotton, I know they're doing things, some of them don't care. But it's going to cost us in the long run, and I really appreciate everybody's attendance here today. And I will open it up for questions. If you have any questions, real quick before we have dinner, don't run, because we have a big dinner here in just a few minutes. Any questions? Guys, we really appreciate it. I'm going to let Dr. Bill Norman kind of sum up this thing. And AJ Gretchen's going to do grace, and we're going to
Try to bring all this message and everything, and get things kicked off, and we hope that everyone has a successful, prosperous harvest season. Just a couple of things. It's very important, if you hadn't figured it out, communication between producers and gin management staff is critical. If you've got a broken module, if you've got an issue about your harvest, where your modules are located, regardless of whether they're traditional, mini, or round, the gin needs to know. They don't like surprises any more than you do. And so the more they can plan for things and know ahead of time if there's an issue, then they can get prepared and they can do their job. You had a lot of material thrown at you today. Every one of these pieces of material listed are available on our NCC website, www.cotton.org. How to build modules, how to tarp, issues around moisture. If you've got excessive rainfall, what to do. Gin needs to do what you as a producer can do. All of that's listed. It's all based on the research and work that's been presented here today. From A&M, from USDA, ARS, Gin Labs, all of that's been documented. We've got links to information from Cotton Incorporated. We've got links to all the John Deere materials on the wrap, and where to cut, how to manage your equipment, and all of that. We've got those linked up. We've got good communication and relationships. If you're not aware of it, Case IH, John Deere, and Campo are all members of the Cotton Foundation. Besides working for the council, I work for the National Cotton Foundation. These companies volunteer, pay dues to pay for research and education to improve U.S. cotton. And we appreciate everything they do. And they're working hard with us, trying to cooperate with them to help get the message out about how to get the best return and preserve the quality of the cotton that you work so hard to produce. Bottom line, I want to point out, we've got a new comprehensive training video that's in the final stages of production. And it's being reviewed right now by Deere and Tama and some others. It's about an hour and a half long in total, but it's broken up into 12 chapters. Each chapter is anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes long. If you've got a round module machine, and you want to know how to maintain it, there are chapters on the very things that David talked about today. And in fact, David's on the video. And there are issues around the route, and Norland is on the video, talking about the things we heard today. If you've got machine operator, tractor drivers that are doing the staging of these round modules, we've got chapters on that, so you can break it up. The chapters that are important for different folks doing different jobs, we've got it broken up that way, including the gym personnel, the folks driving the module trucks, the folks unwrapping at the gym, removing tarps. All of that is covered either on this video or others that we have linked on our website. So we're here to help you. We're here to make sure that you get the most out of your hard work, and that's what we're all here to do. Thank you for your attention. All the best wishes for a successful harvest.